Hey guys, tonight we're stepping back, way back, into a world where gods and mortals bumped elbows, where pride could lead to a very, very bad Tuesday, and where, well, let's just say your Instagram weaving skills probably wouldn't impress anyone. You probably won't survive this. Imagine the Mediterranean sun beating down on your neck as you wander through a bustling marketplace, the scent of olives and spices heavy in the air, the rhythmic click-clack of looms echoing from every other doorway. You can almost taste the sweet wine they're hawking on the corner, but trust me, you'll want to keep your wits about you for this one. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. I'm curious where you all are as we drift off together. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself in Lydia, a region in what is now Western Turkey, back when Lydia was, like, the place for textiles. Think of it as the ancient world's Milan, but with more togas. And you're here to witness something truly remarkable, the artistry of a weaver named Arachne. You push your way through the crowded streets, the air thick with the buzz of conversation and the clatter of tools. The word on the street is that Arachne's work is nothing short of miraculous. People travel for miles just to see her creations. She's not just good, she's Arachne good. You finally reach her workshop, a modest building but radiating an aura of focused creativity. Inside, the air hums with the energy of spinning wheels and the rhythmic thud of the loom. You see Arachne, a young woman with nimble fingers and an air of quiet confidence, working at her loom. Her movements are fluid, almost hypnotic, as she weaves threads of vibrant colors into intricate patterns. It's breathtaking. Seriously, you're just standing there, mouth agape, like you've never seen anyone weave before. And honestly, you probably haven't, not like this. The tapestry before you depicts a scene of pastoral beauty, rolling hills, grazing sheep, and shepherds tending their flocks. The detail is incredible, you can almost feel the warmth of the sun on your skin and smell the fresh scent of the grass. Arachne catches your eye and offers a small, polite nod. She's clearly used to the gawking. Apparently, Queen Elizabeth I of England was quite the fan of weaving too, even though she probably didn't have Arachne's skills. She even had a tapestry workshop at Mortlake. Who knew, right? Historians still argue whether her interest was a genuine passion or just a way to promote English industry. Probably both, because, you know, royalty. Now, keep in mind that weaving in ancient Greece was more than just a craft, it was an art form deeply connected to the divine. Athena, the goddess of wisdom, crafts, and warfare, was considered the patroness of weavers. It was generally accepted that any skill in weaving ultimately came from her blessing. Weaving was also very strongly tied to the role of women in society, representing a vital part of household economies. In fact, archaeological evidence shows that women were even buried with the tools of their trade. As you watch Arachne work, you hear whispers among the onlookers. They marvel at her skill, but there's also an undercurrent of unease. Some say she's too proud, that she boasts too much about her talent. You hear murmurs about how she dares to claim her skills are superior even to those of Athena herself. And then, you hear it, coming directly from Arachne's lips. My skill is my own, she declares, her voice clear and ringing. I owe nothing to Athena. My tapestries are more beautiful, more intricate, more perfect than anything she could ever create. Whoa! You actually feel your jaw drop this time. Now, you may have said a few dumb things out loud after a glass, or three, of wine, but this is a whole other level. Boasting is one thing, but challenging a goddess? That's a different ballgame. You wince, anticipating the inevitable wrath. You see one of the older women in the crowd shaking her head. She mutters something about hubris, that excessive pride that often leads to a downfall. She's probably right. You remember hearing about Icarus, who flew too close to the sun with his wax wings, or Narcissus, who fell in love with his own reflection. Seems like the Greeks really had a thing about people getting too big for their britches. A nervous energy ripples through the crowd. Even you, a casual observer from a future filled with TikTok and instant noodles, feel a sense of impending doom. It's like watching a slow-motion train wreck. You know it's going to be bad, but you can't look away. Suddenly, an old woman appears in the doorway. She's leaning on a gnarled staff and her face is etched with wrinkles. But there's something about her eyes, a piercing intelligence, a regal bearing, that commands attention. You get a weird feeling, like she's not just any old crone. She hobbles closer to Arachne, her voice raspy with age. "My dear girl," she says, "it is wise to respect the gods. Your talent is a gift, but it is also a responsibility. Do not let pride blind you to the source of your skill." Arachne scoffs. "I respect no one," she retorts, her voice sharp. "My talent is my own creation, born of my own hard work. The gods are jealous of my skill, that's all." The old woman sighs, her expression turning sorrowful. "You are young and foolish," she says. "But perhaps you can still be taught a lesson." And with that, she straightens her back, throws back her hood, and transforms. The old woman vanishes, replaced by a radiant figure. The light in the workshop intensifies, and you shield your eyes. When you can see again, standing before you is Athena herself, in all her divine glory. She's not messing around. She's clad in gleaming armor, her shield emblazoned with the image of Medusa's terrifying head. Her eyes, normally a serene blue, are now blazing with righteous anger. The air crackles with divine energy, and even the most skeptical among you start to believe. "Arachne," Athena says, her voice ringing with authority, "you have dared to challenge a goddess. I have given you a chance to repent, but you have refused. Now, you will face the consequences of your arrogance." Okay, so this is it. Game over. You're internally bracing for a lightning bolt or maybe even a plague of locusts, because, well, that's kind of Athena's style. It's not like she's known for her chill vibes and conflict resolution skills. She's more of a problem. Solve it with divine wrath, kind of goddess. But instead of blasting Arachne into oblivion, which, let's be honest, is what you were expecting, Athena offers her a challenge. "We shall have a weaving contest," she declares. "We shall each create a tapestry, and the world will judge whose work is superior." You blink. A weaving contest. After all that build-up, after all that godly rage, it all comes down to a craft-off? You can't help but feel a little let down. You were hoping for a spectacular display of divine power, maybe a few earthquakes thrown in for good measure. But, hey, at least you get to see some more amazing tapestries. Arachne, to her, perhaps foolish, credit, doesn't back down. She stands her ground, her eyes blazing with defiance. "I accept your challenge, Athena," she says, her voice unwavering. "I will prove to the world that my skill is superior to yours." And so, the stage is set. The looms are prepared. The threads are chosen. The contest begins. Athena steps up to her loom, her movements graceful and precise. As she weaves, the tapestry before her begins to take shape. It depicts scenes of the gods in their glory, showcasing their power and wisdom. She weaves images of Zeus wielding his thunderbolt, Poseidon controlling the seas, and herself, Athena, dispensing justice and protecting her people. You have to admit, it's pretty impressive. The craftsmanship is impeccable, the colors are vibrant, and the overall effect is, well, divine. It's like a propaganda poster for Mount Olympus, showcasing all the benefits of godly rule. It even included a not-so-subtle warning to mortals. There's a corner of the tapestry depicting mortals who dared to challenge the gods, and, spoiler alert, things didn't end well for them. Think flayed skin and eternal punishment. Subtle, Athena, real subtle. Then, it's Arachne's turn. You watch as her nimble fingers dance across the loom, her expression focused and determined. Her tapestry takes shape with incredible speed and precision. And when it's finished, well, it's a masterpiece. But unlike Athena's tapestry, which celebrates the gods, Arachne's tapestry tells a different story. It depicts the gods in their less-than-glorious moments, Zeus seducing mortal women, Poseidon unleashing his wrath, and Athena herself, caught in various acts of vanity and petty jealousy. Basically, it's like the ancient Greek equivalent of a celebrity gossip magazine, but woven in thread. It's a scandal sheet made of yarn. You can hear the crowd gasp as they recognize the various scenes. Arachne's tapestry is a scathing indictment of the gods' hypocrisy and their abuse of power. It's bold, it's daring, and it's undeniably beautiful. And that's where the trouble really starts. Athena is livid. Her face is contorted with rage as she stares at Arachne's tapestry. She can't deny the skill with which it was created, but she's enraged by its message. She tears the tapestry from the loom and rips it to shreds. The crowd gasps in horror as the beautiful artwork is destroyed. "You have insulted the gods," Athena cries, her voice trembling with anger. "You have used your talent to defame us, to expose our flaws. For this, you will be punished." And then, she does something truly awful. She takes a shuttle, one of those wooden things used to weave, and strikes Arachne across the face. The blow is swift and brutal. Arachne crumples to the ground, humiliated and defeated. The crowd is silent, stunned by the goddess's actions. You, even though you know how this is supposed to end, feel a pang of sympathy for Arachne. Yes, she was arrogant, yes, she challenged a goddess, but did she really deserve this? Arachne, overwhelmed with shame and despair, tries to run, but the workshop seems to close in on her. She can't bear the thought of living with the humiliation she's brought upon herself. In a final act of desperation, she grabs a rope and tries to hang herself. You gasp, but it's too late. Athena, witnessing Arachne's attempted suicide, is momentarily taken aback. Maybe, just maybe, she went a little too far. But instead of showing compassion, she decides to inflict one last, cruel punishment. She loosens the rope, saving Arachne from death, but then utters a curse. "Live on, Arachne," she says, her voice cold and unforgiving. "But you and your descendants will forever be known for your weaving, and you will forever be cursed to spin and weave." And with that, she transforms Arachne into a spider. Yes, you heard that right. A spider. Athena, in a fit of divine pique, turns Arachne into the very creature whose name she bears. From that day forward, Arachne and her descendants would be condemned to spin webs, forever weaving but never achieving the glory she once craved. And that, my friends, is why we have spiders. But wait, the story does not end here. Okay, settle in, friend. Let your shoulders drop, unclench your jaw. We're just gonna drift into this story, alright? Think of it like a guided meditation, but with ancient Greek mythology and maybe a rogue spider or two. You trudge through the sun-drenched meadow, the air thick with the scent of thyme and something vaguely woolly. It's sheep, probably. Lots of sheep in these parts. You can practically feel the warmth radiating off the earth, baking into your sandals. Every step kicks up little clouds of dust that shimmer in the light, dust that's probably seen a lot of history. I mean, think about it, this very ground might have felt the tread of sandals belonging to someone who actually knew Socrates. Heavy, right? Dude loved to walk. And talk. Mostly talk. The path winds upward, leading you towards a cluster of ancient olive trees, their gnarled trunks twisted like arthritic fingers. As you approach, you start to hear it, the rhythmic thwack, thwack, thwack of a loom. Someone's working, and they're really into it. You peek through the silvery leaves, and there she is, Arachne. She's not what you expected, maybe. Not some ethereal goddess, or a wizened crone. Just a girl, really. Maybe a little older than you. But her hands? Those are something else. They move with a speed and precision that's almost hypnotic, darting back and forth across the loom, weaving threads of vibrant color into a tapestry that seems to shimmer and breathe. It's like watching a hummingbird in fast forward. The scene she's creating is incredible. You recognize figures from myths you heard as a kid: Zeus, disguised as a swan, seducing Leda. Europa riding a bull across the sea. Gods behaving badly, basically. It's all rendered with such detail, such emotion, that you're immediately captivated. You can almost feel the spray of the ocean on your face, hear Europa's startled cry. You lean closer, completely mesmerized. Quite the artist, isn't she? A voice whispers, making you jump. You turn to see a group of, well, they look like normal girls, but there's something different about them. Maybe it's the way their eyes gleam, or the way they seem to blend into the dappled sunlight. Nymphs. Of course. Because why wouldn't there be nymphs hanging out in a grove of ancient olive trees? She's amazing, you breathe, still staring at Arachne's work. One of the nymphs, her hair adorned with woven vines, steps forward. She smiles, but her eyes hold a trace of concern. Indeed. Her skill is unmatched. Even the goddess Athena would be impressed. Athena, goddess of wisdom, warfare, and crafts. Sewing, weaving, the whole shebang. You remember reading somewhere that Athena even invented the bridle for horses. Talk about a triple threat. But, the nymph continues, her voice dropping to a near whisper. Arachne's pride, it grows with each thread she weaves. She boasts that her skill surpasses even Athena's. That is a dangerous claim indeed. Another nymph, this one with wildflowers woven into her braids, nods in agreement. Hubris. It is the downfall of mortals. Even heroes fall prey to it. You recall the tale of Icarus, who flew too close to the sun, his wax wings melting, sending him plummeting to his death. Sometimes, it's the very thing that makes you great that ends up destroying you. Tragic, really. We have cautioned her, the first nymph sighs, we have reminded her of the power of the gods, of the respect that is due. But she will not listen. Her talent has made her deaf. They watch Arachne in silence for a moment, the only sound the rhythmic thwack, thwack, thwack of the loom, a constant, almost mocking beat. She claims she needs no instruction from any goddess, another nymph adds, her voice tinged with sadness. That her skill is innate, a gift from herself. You raise an eyebrow. Bold. Very bold. Maybe too bold. The first nymph turns to you, her expression serious. You, traveler. You seem to possess a discerning eye. What do you see? In her work, in her spirit? You consider the question carefully. You see the skill, the undeniable talent. But you also see the defiance. The arrogance, maybe. It's there in the way she holds her head, in the confident flick of her wrist as she guides the shuttle. I see greatness, you say slowly. But also, maybe, a little too much confidence. The nymphs exchange knowing glances. Confidence is one thing. Arrogance is another, the nymph with wildflowers says. And challenging a goddess? That is a gamble with stakes higher than any mortal can imagine. Historians still argue whether the ancient Greeks truly believed in their gods as literal beings, or if their myths were more allegorical, representing deeper truths about human nature. But, standing here in this sun-drenched grove, surrounded by nymphs who seem genuinely concerned about a weaver's inflated ego, it's hard not to feel like the gods are very, very real. You glance back at Arachne, her fingers still flying across the loom. She seems oblivious to the conversation, lost in her creation. You almost want to shout a warning, tell her to dial it down a notch, maybe offer Athena a nice bouquet of flowers. Just to be safe. Then you remember the story of Pythagoras, the ancient Greek mathematician and philosopher. Apparently, he believed that beans contained the souls of the dead, and strictly forbade his followers from eating them. Beans. Of all things. People are strange, throughout the ages. Anyway, distracting thought, forget beans. The first nymph touches your arm lightly. Speak to her, traveler. Perhaps your words will reach her where ours have failed. Remind her that even the most skilled mortal is but a small part of the grand tapestry of the universe. Remind her that humility is a virtue, and hubris, a curse. She smiles sadly, then melts back into the shadows of the olive trees, the other nymphs fading away with her. You're left alone, the thwack, thwack, thwack of the loom the only sound breaking the silence. You take a deep breath, straighten your sandals, and approach Arachne, trying to figure out how to deliver this message without sounding like a complete buzzkill. It's never fun being that person, right? You brace yourself. This could get awkward. After all, who wants to be told they're a bit too good at something? That's like telling a cat it's too fluffy, completely nonsensical. You clear your throat. Excuse me, you say, trying to sound casual, like you just happened to be passing by and were admiring her amazing tapestry. That's, really beautiful. You're incredibly talented. Arachne barely glances up. Of course I am, she says, her voice cool and dismissive. My skill is unmatched. Okay, subtlety's out the window, apparently. You try a different approach. The nymphs, they were saying something about respecting the gods. Arachne scoffs. The gods? What have they ever done for me? My skill is my own. I owe them nothing. You wince. This is going exactly as badly as you expected. Well, you say, choosing your words carefully, maybe it's not about owing them something. Maybe it's just about being respectful. Not, tempting fate. She stops weaving for a moment, finally meeting your gaze. Her eyes are dark and intense, filled with a pride that borders on arrogance. Fate? I make my own fate. I am the master of my own destiny. You open your mouth to argue, to try to explain the dangers of hubris, but then you hesitate. Who are you to lecture her? You're just a traveler, passing through, offering unsolicited advice. Maybe she's right. Maybe she can defy the gods. But as you look at her, at the unwavering certainty in her eyes, you can't shake the feeling that she's making a terrible mistake. That she's walking a path that can only lead to ruin. You sigh, defeated. Just be careful, you say softly. That's all I'm saying. You turn to leave, the thwack, thwack, thwack of the loom following you like a warning. As you walk away, you can't help but wonder what the future holds for Arachne. Will she heed your warning? Or will her pride ultimately be her undoing? Only time, and maybe a very angry goddess, will tell. You find yourself standing amidst a flutter of nervous energy, a gossamer web of whispered pleas spun by the forest nymphs. Seriously, they're working themselves into a state. You get it, though. This whole challenging a goddess thing is, shall we say, a bold move. Like wearing Crocs to a black tie gala, a statement, sure, but maybe not the wisest one. Their tiny, leafy hands tug at your simple tunic, their voices a chorus of urgent anxieties. Arachne, please. Reconsider. Athena is a goddess of immense power, of wisdom and strategy. Humility is a virtue. One of them, bless her cotton socks, even tries to offer you a wilting daisy. Honestly, the drama. You can practically hear the collective sharp intake of breath of the entire forest. You manage a reassuring smile, even though your stomach is doing Olympic-level gymnastics. Thank you for your concern, lovelies. I appreciate it. Really, I do. But I can't. I won't. You take a deep breath, the earthy scent of the forest floor filling your lungs. They're right. Humility is a virtue. But so is believing in yourself, in your own hard-won skill. And I am the best weaver. You gently untangle yourself from their clinging hands. Besides, you add, a mischievous glint in your eye, where's the fun in being slightly less amazing than everyone else? You get a few bewildered looks for that one. Oh well. Can't win 'em all. You glance at your loom, standing patiently under the dappled sunlight filtering through the leaves. It's a humble thing, really, made of sturdy wood and strung with taut threads, but in your hands, it's a conduit for magic, a portal to creation. You've spent countless hours here, your fingers flying across the warp and weft, coaxing colors and stories from the threads. Each tapestry is a piece of your soul, woven with dedication and passion. And you know you're good. Like, historically good. Think Michelangelo with a shuttle. Think Shakespeare with, well, yarn. Okay, maybe not Shakespeare with yarn. That image is just wrong. But you get the idea. You're really good. In fact, the ancient Greeks, actually, really valued skilled artisans. They were seen as being blessed by the gods. It was a sign that you were favored, which, is slightly ironic in this situation. Okay, back to the task at hand. Defying a goddess. Right. You turn back to the nymphs, whose faces are still etched with worry. Look, you say, softening your tone, I understand your fears. But this isn't just about pride. It's about something more. It's about recognizing skill, wherever it comes from. If the gods are truly wise, they should reward talent, not stifle it. And, you add with a shrug, I'm just a little bit tired of hearing everyone say that everything amazing in the world is thanks to some deity or other. We mortals put in the work, too. One of the nymphs, a particularly timid one with dewdrops clinging to her hair, pipes up. But what if you lose? You pause, considering the question. You haven't really allowed yourself to dwell on that possibility. It's not arrogance, you tell yourself, just confidence. Well, maybe a little arrogance. But you quickly dismiss the thought. No need for that kind of negativity right now. If I lose, you say, your voice firm, then I lose. I'll accept the consequences. But I won't back down from a challenge because of fear. Besides, you add with a wink, losing to a goddess wouldn't exactly be the worst thing in the world, right? I mean, at least I'd have a good story to tell. You turn your gaze to the heavens, where the sun is beginning its descent, casting long shadows across the forest floor. Athena, you call out, your voice echoing through the trees. I, Arachne, daughter of Idmon, challenge you to a weaving contest. Let us see whose skill is truly superior. A hush falls over the forest. The nymphs hold their breath, their eyes wide with anticipation and dread. Even the birds seem to have stopped singing. All that can be heard is the gentle rustling of leaves in the breeze. You stand tall, your chin lifted, your hands steady. You may be just a mortal girl, facing a powerful goddess, but in this moment, you feel a surge of defiance, of determination, of pure, unadulterated sass. You're ready. Or, at least, as ready as you can be when about to potentially face the wrath of a deity. You're also a bit hungry, but that's a problem for future you. The air crackles with energy. The leaves begin to swirl. And then, with a flash of blinding light, Athena appears. She stands before you, radiating an aura of power and wisdom. Her eyes, the color of a stormy sea, are fixed upon you, assessing, evaluating. She's rocking the full goddess look, helmet and spear and the whole shebang. Talk about overdressing for the occasion. So, Athena says, her voice like the rumble of distant thunder, you dare to challenge me? You meet her gaze without flinching. I do, you reply, your voice clear and strong. I believe my skill is equal to yours. And I intend to prove it. A flicker of something, amusement, crosses Athena's face. Very well, she says. Let the contest begin. But be warned, Arachne. The consequences of failure will be severe. You nod, your heart pounding in your chest. I understand. With a wave of her hand, Athena conjures a second loom, even grander and more ornate than yours. It gleams with gold and silver, a testament to her divine power. You try not to be intimidated, but honestly, it's gorgeous. The Battle of the Looms is about to begin. Historians still argue whether Athena genuinely felt threatened or if she was simply testing Arachne. Either way, things are about to get woven. You approach your loom, your fingers itching to begin. You select your threads, choosing the finest wool dyed in vibrant hues. You close your eyes for a moment, visualizing the image you will weave, the story you will tell. It will be a story of mortals, of their triumphs and struggles, of their capacity for both great beauty and great cruelty. You decide to start with something simple. Just a little sunrise scene. You can add the complex stuff later. Baby steps. Athena, meanwhile, is already hard at work, her fingers moving with lightning speed across her loom. You can see the beginnings of her tapestry taking shape, a depiction of the gods in all their glory, powerful and majestic. There's probably a subtle message in there somewhere, but you're too busy trying to remember what warp and weft actually mean to really analyze it. You're starting to feel a little bit of pressure now. You could really use a nap. As you work, you can feel the eyes of the nymphs upon you, their silent support a comforting presence. You focus on your task, blocking out the noise and the fear, losing yourself in the rhythm of the loom. The threads glide through your fingers, the colors blending and swirling, creating a tapestry that is both beautiful and meaningful. Did you know that the oldest known examples of woven fabric date back to around 7000 BC? That's a lot of weaving history to live up to. No pressure or anything. Hours pass. The sun climbs higher in the sky, then begins its slow descent. Your fingers ache, your eyes are tired, but you refuse to stop. You are determined to show Athena, and everyone else, what you are capable of. You sneak a glance at Athena's tapestry. It's even more impressive up close. The detail is incredible, the colors are dazzling. But something about it feels cold. Distant. It's technically perfect, but it lacks the warmth and emotion that you pour into your own work. You suspect Athena may have a robot arm or two tucked away somewhere. You focus back on your own tapestry, adding the final touches. You step back to admire your work. It depicts a simple scene, a shepherd tending his flock in a sun-drenched meadow. But in the shepherd's eyes, you've woven a story of hardship and resilience, of love and loss, of the simple beauty of everyday life. You are finished. You turn to Athena, your heart pounding in your chest. I am done, you announce. Let us see whose tapestry is the more worthy. Athena steps back from her loom, her expression unreadable. She surveys your tapestry, her eyes narrowed in concentration. A long moment of silence hangs in the air. The suspense is killing you. You feel like you could use a vacation. Or maybe just a really, really long nap. Finally, Athena speaks. Her voice is low, almost a whisper. Your skill is undeniable, Arachne, she says. Your tapestry is beautiful. It is also remarkably critical of the gods. Ah yes, the passive-aggressive compliment. You see what she's doing. You brace yourself. Here comes the smackdown. Well, you know that's probably what's coming. But, for tonight, at least, you can relax. Okay, settle in, friend. Let's keep the story rolling, shall we? Just imagine a cozy blanket, maybe a cup of herbal tea, and let's dive back into the world of Arachne. Remember how, last we left her, she'd just finished creating that tapestry that might have been a teensy bit disrespectful to the gods. Yeah, well, consequences are looming. They always do, don't they? You trudge through the sun-drenched marketplace, the air thick with the scent of olives and something vaguely fishy. It's a typical day in ancient Lydia, which, by the way, corresponds roughly to modern-day Turkey. Lydia was pretty important back then, famous for its wealth and, allegedly, for inventing coinage. Can you imagine? A world before money. Chaos. Anyway, you are completely unaware that you're about to have a very close encounter of the divine kind. You're too busy trying to haggle for some brightly dyed wool. The colors are amazing, almost painfully vibrant. You run your fingers over a skein of deep crimson, thinking about how it would look woven into a border. The merchant, a stout fellow with a booming laugh, quotes you a price that's, shall we say, a bit ambitious. You roll your eyes. This is going to take some serious negotiating. Suddenly, you feel a tap on your arm. You turn to see an old woman, her face etched with wrinkles that map a lifetime of sun and wind. She's leaning heavily on a gnarled wooden staff, and her eyes, though clouded with age, seem to pierce right through you. Like she knows your deepest secrets. Which, let's be real, is probably just whether or not you separate your whites and colors. "Excuse me, young one," she rasps, her voice like dry leaves rustling in the wind. "I couldn't help but overhear you bartering. You have a good eye for color. And I've also heard whispers about your skill with a loom." You shift uncomfortably. Whispers? Oh, great. Here we go. "I do a bit of weaving," you say, trying to sound nonchalant. Like you don't spend every waking moment obsessed with threads and dyes and patterns. Like you haven't poured your entire soul into that one tapestry that's currently sitting in your workshop, radiating rebellious vibes. The old woman's gaze intensifies. "More than a bit, I suspect. They say your work is extraordinary. But be warned, child. Pride can be a dangerous thread to weave into your tapestry." "Okay, that's a little on the nose, even for you." "I don't know what you mean," you say, your voice a little sharper than you intended. You glance around, suddenly feeling self-conscious. Are people listening? Are the gods watching? Probably. They're always watching. She sighs, a long, drawn-out sound. The gods are powerful, child. And they are sensitive. It is wise to show them respect. Especially Athena. You scoff. Respect? They demand it, but do they earn it? Is it earned when they interfere in the lives of humans? Is it earned when they use and abuse their powers? You almost regret saying it aloud. Almost. The old woman shakes her head slowly. You speak rashly. You have talent, yes, but talent alone is not enough. Humility is also a virtue. Remember the fate of those who have challenged the gods before. You bristle. I'm not challenging anyone. I'm simply expressing myself. Expression without wisdom is folly, she replies, her voice hardening slightly. Take care, Arachne. You are treading a dangerous path. And with that, she turns and hobbles away, disappearing into the throng of people. You watch her go, a chill running down your spine. The air suddenly feels heavier, the sun less bright. You try to shake off the feeling of unease. It's just some old busybody, right? Trying to scare you. But something about her eyes. You return to haggling with the merchant, but your heart isn't in it. You agree to his price, a little too quickly, and grab the crimson wool. You need to get home. You need to check on your tapestry. You need to make sure everything is all right. As you walk, you find yourself thinking about the old woman's warning. About humility. About the gods. You think about stories you've heard, tales of mortals who dared to defy the Olympians and suffered terrible consequences. Like, remember Actaeon? He saw Artemis bathing, totally by accident, allegedly, and she turned him into a stag and his own hunting dogs tore him apart. Yikes. And then there's Marsyas, the satyr who challenged Apollo to a music contest. Apollo won, obviously, and then flayed Marsyas alive. Double yikes. Of course, there's also the less dramatic stuff, like the ancient belief that hiccups were caused by the gods briefly forgetting about you. Can you imagine being so insignificant even the gods forget you exist for, like, 5 seconds? You quicken your pace, the weight of the wool feeling heavier with each step. When you finally reach your workshop, you burst through the door, your heart pounding in your chest. You rush to the corner where you left your tapestry, and you breathe a sigh of relief. It's still there, untouched. The colors are still vibrant, the figures still lifelike. But as you gaze at it, a new wave of doubt washes over you. Have you gone too far? Have you crossed a line? You spend the rest of the day staring at the tapestry, unable to work. The old woman's words echo in your head. Pride can be a dangerous thread. You try to convince yourself that you've done nothing wrong. That you've simply told a story, your story. That the gods are powerful enough to handle a little bit of artistic critique. But deep down, you know that's probably not true. That night, you have trouble sleeping. You toss and turn, haunted by images of angry gods and vengeful punishments. You imagine Zeus hurling lightning bolts, Poseidon summoning tidal waves, and Athena. Well, you're not quite sure what Athena would do, but you're pretty sure it wouldn't be pleasant. Historians still argue whether the ancient Greeks truly believed in the literal existence of their gods, or whether they saw them more as symbolic representations of natural forces and human emotions. Either way, it's safe to say that they took them seriously. And right now, you wish you had taken them a little more seriously too. As dawn breaks, you make a decision. You're going to apologize. You're going to take down the tapestry and, well, you're not sure what you're going to do with it, but you're going to do something that shows you're sorry. You get out of bed, your body heavy with fatigue and dread. You stumble to your workshop, ready to face the music. But when you reach the corner where you left the tapestry, you stop dead in your tracks. Because it's gone. Vanished. Without a trace. The loom stands empty, the threads hanging limp and lifeless. The room is silent, except for the faint sound of the wind whistling through a crack in the wall. You stare at the empty space, your mind reeling. Where could it have gone? Who could have taken it? And why? Then, you notice something else. In the center of the floor, there's a small, intricately woven basket. It's filled with something. You cautiously approach the basket and peer inside. And that's when you see it. More vivid than a rainbow. Nestled on silk are the very threads from which she'd originally weaved, glowing, alive, waiting for her to start again. Okay, here we go, another layer to this epic tale, another brushstroke on the canvas of fate. Let's dive in. You lean back, admiring your handiwork. Hours, maybe even days, have melted away, didn't they? Just dissolved like sugar in warm tea. The tapestry shimmers, a kaleidoscope of arrogance and skill, a visual smackdown delivered in thread. You've depicted the gods, all right, but not in the way they'd like to be remembered, oh no. Zeus. Transformed into a swan, pursuing Leda with gusto. Poseidon. Well, let's just say his attempts to woo Demeter involved a rather unflattering horse form. And then there's poor Europa, being carried off by a bull, another of Zeus's creative endeavors. Honestly, it's kinda impressive, isn't it? You almost feel bad. Almost. You can't help but grin, though. This is good. Really, really good. Your fingers twitch with the residue of creation, still humming with the rhythm of the loom. You take a sip of water, your throat suddenly dry. All this artistry is thirsty work. Speaking of thirsty work, did you know that in ancient Rome, people used to believe that gladiators drank the blood of fallen comrades to gain their strength? Talk about a protein shake. Anyway, back to the art. But wait. Something is happening. A shift in the air, a prickling on your skin. It's like when you're watching a scary movie and you know something's about to jump out, even though the screen is still all peaceful and serene. That feeling. You try to ignore it, attributing it to fatigue, to the sheer intensity of the past few days. Maybe you need a nap. You should definitely get more sleep. Studies have shown that adequate rest improves cognitive function, reduces stress, and enhances overall well-being. You make a mental note, sleep. Tomorrow. Definitely tomorrow. But the feeling intensifies, a creeping dread that starts in your toes and climbs up your spine. The old woman, the one who moments ago seemed so frail and ordinary, stands before you, her back ramrod straight. She hasn't moved, yet she seems different. Taller, somehow. More imposing. Her eyes, which were once clouded with age, now gleam with an unsettling light. It's like she's been plugged into the mains. You swallow hard, your bravado suddenly feeling a lot less brave. "So," she says, her voice no longer a quavering whisper, but a resonant tone that seems to vibrate through the very floorboards. "You find my gifts inadequate?" "Okay, sarcasm. You can do sarcasm. It's practically your native language." "Inadequate?" No, not inadequate. Just, perhaps lacking in a certain accuracy." You attempt a disarming smile, the kind you usually reserve for particularly clueless customers at the market. It doesn't seem to be working. The old woman's lips tighten. "Accuracy? You dare speak of accuracy when your own work is a blatant act of defiance, a petty insult hurled at those far greater than yourself?" Petty. Petty. Now she's just being rude. "With all due respect," you begin, channeling your inner diplomat, "I simply depicted the gods as they are, with all their flaws." "Flaws?" She laughs, a sharp, brittle sound that echoes in the suddenly silent room. "You think these are mere flaws? These are the consequences of power, the burdens of divinity. You, little mortal, cannot possibly comprehend the weight of responsibility that rests upon our shoulders." Historians still argue whether the concept of divine responsibility in Greek mythology was a genuine reflection of societal values or merely a justification for the gods' often capricious behavior. But you don't have time for historical debates right now. You cross your arms, trying to project an air of confidence that you definitely don't feel. "Oh, I don't know," you say, your voice a little shaky. "Seems like a lot of that responsibility involves turning into animals to seduce unsuspecting mortals. Hardly sounds like rocket science." A beat of silence. Then, the old woman's shoulders begin to shake. You brace yourself. Is she going to cry? Is this it? Will you have to offer her a cup of tea and listen to her vent about her divine midlife crisis? But no. She's not crying. She's laughing. A deep, rumbling laugh that seems to emanate from the very core of the earth. And as she laughs, the air around her crackles with energy. You can smell ozone, that sharp, electric scent that follows a lightning strike. Your hair stands on end. This is not good. The transformation begins subtly. First, her skin seems to shimmer, the wrinkles smoothing out, the age spots fading away like watercolor paint under a running tap. Then, her hunched back straightens, her stooped posture correcting itself with an audible crack. The shawl she was wearing falls to the floor, revealing a figure that is, well, let's just say, old woman, is no longer the operative descriptor. You gulp. Her eyes are the last to change. The clouded, milky iris is clear, revealing pupils that are sharp and intelligent, radiating a power that makes your knees weak. They fix on you, pinning you in place like a butterfly on a display board. You try to look away, but you can't. You're caught. And then, with a final, earth-shattering laugh, she throws back her head and reveals herself. The light in the room intensifies, bathing everything in an almost blinding glow. You shield your eyes with your hand, squinting through the gaps between your fingers. When you dare to look again, the old woman is gone. Standing before you is a goddess. Athena. Her armor gleams with an unearthly light, polished to a mirror sheen that reflects your own terrified face back at you. Her helmet, pushed back on her head, reveals a face that is both beautiful and terrifying, a face carved from marble and imbued with divine power. Her eyes, the color of a stormy sky, are fixed on you, filled with a cold fury that chills you to the bone. She holds a spear in one hand, its tip glinting menacingly in the light. In the other, she carries a shield emblazoned with the image of Medusa, her snake-haired head frozen in a perpetual scream. Honestly, the shield is kinda cool, but now is probably not the time to compliment her on her accessories. You stare, speechless, your carefully constructed facade of arrogance crumbling to dust. You had suspected, of course. The weaving contest, the old woman disguise, it all pointed to one conclusion. But seeing her, really seeing her, in all her divine glory, it's a different ballgame entirely. It's like seeing a picture of the Grand Canyon and then actually standing on the edge, staring into its vast, unfathomable depths. The picture doesn't quite capture it, does it? Athena takes a step closer, her sandals echoing on the stone floor. The sound is deafening, amplified by the sudden silence in the room. You try to speak, to apologize, to grovel, anything to appease her wrath. But your tongue feels thick and clumsy, your throat constricted with fear. All that comes out is a strangled squeak. You have insulted me, Arachne, she says, her voice like the clang of bronze on bronze. You have dared to mock the gods, to belittle our power and our wisdom. And you have done so with your own considerable skill, using the very gifts that I bestowed upon you. You finally manage to find your voice, a small, weak thing that barely manages to break the oppressive silence. I didn't mean to, you stammer, your words tumbling over each other in your haste. It was just, art. A commentary. A commentary? Athena raises an eyebrow, her expression one of withering disdain. You call this, blasphemy, a commentary? You have twisted my gifts, Arachne, and used them to spread falsehoods and disrespect. For this, you must be punished. Punished. That word hangs in the air, heavy with dread. You knew this was coming, didn't you? You knew that challenging a goddess was a risky proposition. But you had hoped, perhaps foolishly, that your talent, your skill, your sheer audacity, would somehow protect you. You thought you were special, didn't you? A fun fact, in the Middle Ages, people believed that spiders could cure diseases. Unfortunately, your spider skills aren't going to cure this situation. You were so wrong. Athena's eyes narrow. You have chosen to weave tales of our failings, to highlight our weaknesses. Very well. You shall weave for eternity, and you shall be a constant reminder of the consequences of hubris. Hubris. Excessive pride. The downfall of many a hero in Greek mythology. And now, it seems, your own. She raises her hand, and a wave of energy washes over you, a tingling sensation that spreads through your body like wildfire. You gasp, clutching at your throat, your skin crawling. Something is happening. Something terrible. And you have a very, very bad feeling about this. In open scholarly debate, was Athena's punishment of Arachne justified, or was it an excessive display of divine power? Who really knows? All you know is you're about to find out firsthand. Okay, settle in, settle in. Let's get comfy. You're here, I'm here, the loom is, well, it's about to be set. You can practically smell the lanolin, can't you? Just kidding. Unless you actually can, in which case, wow, you've got some sensitive nostrils. Good for you. Right, so, imagine this, you're standing in a sun-drenched clearing. Maybe there's a little breeze, just enough to rustle the leaves and keep the gnats away. Before you loom, get it, two magnificent, frankly intimidating, weaving contraptions. One belongs to Athena, goddess of wisdom, strategic warfare, and crafts. You know, the whole package. The other, belongs to Arachne, a mortal woman, but not just any mortal woman, mind you. This one is good. Like, unsettlingly good. Like, makes the goddess herself feel a little insecure good. You watch as Athena approaches her loom. It's crafted from polished olive wood, intricately carved with scenes of heroic battles and divine pronouncements. Not exactly subtle, is it? The threads themselves seem to shimmer with an inner light, like spun moonlight. She handles them with a calm, practiced grace that comes from, oh, I don't know, millennia of experience. Did you know that weaving was a seriously big deal back in ancient Greece? It wasn't just a hobby, like, say, adult coloring books are today. It was essential. Clothing, tapestries, even sails for ships depended on skilled weavers. It was practically an economic powerhouse, all thanks to yarn and nimble fingers. Who knew, right? Arachne, on the other hand, approaches her loom with a different kind of confidence. It's made of simpler materials, sturdy oak, unadorned. But there's a raw, untamed energy about it, like it's just itching to create something spectacular. Her threads are dyed in vibrant, earthy tones, reflecting her connection to the natural world. You can tell she's poured her heart and soul into every detail, every knot, every single strand. She's got this intense look in her eyes, like she's ready to wrestle destiny into submission. So, the stage is set. Literally. You're probably wondering what's at stake here. Oh, just a little thing called bragging rights. Okay, maybe more than that. Let's just say the loser isn't going to be too happy with the outcome, shall we? I mean, we're talking about a goddess and a mortal with sky-high egos. This isn't going to end with a friendly handshake and a good game. You know, it's fascinating how different cultures viewed weaving. In some societies, it was seen as a purely domestic task, something for women to do in the home. But in others, like ancient Peru, weaving was a highly respected art form, practiced by both men and women. Some of the textiles they produced were so intricate and beautiful, they were used as currency and status symbols. Talk about wearing your wealth, huh? And speaking of wealth, it's crazy to think that silk, which made its way from China along the Silk Road, was once worth more than gold. Can you imagine paying for your groceries with a carefully woven scarf? That'll be one silk scarf and, 3 feathers for the kale. Okay, back to the loom. Athena takes a deep breath and begins to weave. Her fingers move with lightning speed, creating a tapestry that depicts the glory of the gods. Zeus, wielding his thunderbolt, Poseidon, commanding the waves, Hera, looking majestic and, let's be honest, a little bit judgmental. It's a masterpiece of propaganda, a subtle, well, not so subtle, reminder of who's in charge. You see her weave in images of mortals who dared to challenge the gods, getting their comeuppance in spectacularly gruesome ways. It's like a divine public service announcement, don't mess with us, or else. Arachne watches Athena with a cool, appraising gaze. She's not intimidated, not even a little bit. In fact, you get the sense that she's actually enjoying this. Like she's been waiting her whole life for this moment. You know, there's a theory that Arachne wasn't just some random mortal. Some believe she was actually a priestess of an older, pre-Olympian goddess, a deity of the earth and the moon. This would explain her connection to nature and her defiance of the Olympian gods. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is she just a supremely talented weaver, or is she a symbol of something more? Historians still argue whether myths like this one reflect genuine religious conflicts or are simply moral tales about hubris. Either way, it definitely adds another layer to the story, doesn't it? Arachne begins to weave her own tapestry. It's different. Instead of glorifying the gods, she depicts their flaws, their indiscretions, their downright terrible behavior. Zeus, seducing Europa in the form of a bull, Poseidon, attempting to claim Athens for himself, Apollo, chasing Daphne through the woods. It's a scandalous exposé, a tell-all biography of the Olympian elite. You almost want to grab some popcorn and settle in for the show. Athena's face darkens as she watches Arachne's creation unfold. You can practically see the steam coming out of her ears. She's not used to being challenged, especially not by a mere mortal. And definitely not in such a public and, frankly, embarrassing way. There's always been an interesting tension between the gods and mortals in Greek mythology. The gods were supposed to be all-powerful and wise, but they often acted like spoiled children, indulging in petty squabbles and impulsive decisions. Maybe that's why the Greeks were so fascinated by heroes, individuals who dared to challenge the status quo and fight for what they believed in. They provided a valuable, if subtle, form of social commentary. Take Prometheus, for example. Stealing fire from the gods to give it to humanity. Bold move. I wonder what the gods would think about the internet. Arachne's fingers fly across the loom, weaving with a passion and skill that surpasses anything you've ever seen. The tapestry comes alive before your eyes, the figures almost seeming to move and breathe. It's a work of art, a masterpiece of technical skill and artistic vision. You can't help but be mesmerized by it, despite the, provocative subject matter. She's not just weaving a story, she's making a statement. A very loud, very public statement. You feel a shiver run down your spine. This isn't just a weaving competition anymore. It's a battle of wills, a clash of ideologies, a showdown between the divine and the mortal. It's like watching a philosophical debate unfold in thread and color. Who will win? You lean closer, eager to see how this epic yarn, sorry, I had to, will unravel. You know, I probably shouldn't make puns at a time like this. It feels inappropriate. Oh well, too late now. You know, something that always struck me as odd about Greek myths is how casually they accepted transformations. People turning into animals, plants, even constellations. It's like they had a completely different understanding of the boundaries between the natural world and the human world. Imagine waking up one morning and discovering you've turned into a laurel tree. Talk about a bad hair day. The air crackles with tension. Athena's tapestry is technically perfect, a flawless representation of divine power. But Arachne's tapestry has something more, something raw and authentic, something that resonates with the human spirit. It's a reminder that even the gods are not above criticism, that even the most powerful beings can make mistakes. It's a piece of art with teeth. Athena's expression is a mixture of rage and grudging admiration. She knows that Arachne's tapestry is brilliant, even if she can't bring herself to admit it. It's like watching your kid beat you at a video game. You're proud, but also a little bit salty. I mean, who wants to be shown up by someone a fraction of their age, or, in this case, a fraction of their existence? Arachne looks up at Athena, her eyes shining with defiance. She knows she's pushed the boundaries, that she's challenged the established order. But she doesn't care. She's proven her point. She's shown the world that even a mortal can create something that rivals the creations of the gods. The moment of truth has arrived. The looms are set. The tapestries are complete. The gods, and you, are watching. What happens next? Well, that, my friend, is a story for another time. And maybe a cup of chamomile tea. Alright, settle in, settle in. Let your shoulders drop. Maybe wiggle your toes a little. We're going to get cozy here in Athena's workshop, a space that smells faintly of lanolin and ozone. Yeah, probably ozone from all the divine inspiration crackling around. You find yourself standing just inside the doorway, the marble cool beneath your bare feet. Don't worry about the toga situation, everyone gets one on arrival. It's a divine dress code thing. Trust me, you don't want to see Zeus in a speedo. And there she is, Athena, goddess of wisdom, strategic warfare, and weaving. Yeah, weaving. Turns out saving Olympus from Titans and inventing the bridle gets a bit tiring, so everyone needs a hobby. She's utterly absorbed in her work, her brow furrowed in concentration, those famous gray eyes narrowed as she manipulates the shuttle across the loom. The rhythmic clack 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 is strangely hypnotic. You're close enough now to see what she's working on, a tapestry, of course. But not just any tapestry. This is a masterpiece in progress, a glorification of the Olympian pantheon, a visual representation of their power, their majesty, their sometimes questionable behavior. You see Zeus, naturally, smack dab in the middle. He's depicted wielding his thunderbolt, looking every bit the king of the gods. He's even got that self-satisfied smirk you always see in the ancient sculptures. Next to him, Hera stands tall, radiating queenly dignity, and maybe a touch of side-eye. You wouldn't want to be whoever got Zeus's attention recently if she has anything to say about it. Historians still argue whether Hera's legendary jealousy was a result of genuine marital betrayal or a symbolic representation of the challenges to patriarchal power. Let's be real, though, it was probably a bit of both. Poseidon, trident in hand, rises from the waves, a slightly seaweed-wide glint in his eye. And Hades, looking decidedly less cheerful, peers up from the underworld, a Cerberus head poking out from behind him. Let's be honest, being stuck in the underworld probably wouldn't do much for anyone's disposition. You notice Apollo, radiating golden light, strumming a lyre, probably one he just invented because he's just that talented. Artemis, ever the huntress, stands beside him, bow drawn, a silver arrow nocked and ready. Something tells me there will be no hunting violations during her watch. You see Ares, looking particularly menacing, and Aphrodite, even more distracting. It's always interesting to think about how those two ended up married. You know, the god of war and the goddess of love. Talk about a mixed marriage. It's amazing, the detail. Each god and goddess is rendered with such care, their individual personalities shining through. The colors are vibrant, the gold and silver threads catching the light, making the whole tapestry shimmer with an otherworldly radiance. You might even get the slightest feeling that they're actually watching you instead of the other way around. But that's just nerves talking. Probably. You feel a gentle tap on your shoulder, and you turn to see Athena smiling. Well? What do you think? She asks, her voice surprisingly soft for a warrior goddess. It's incredible, you managed to stammer out. The detail, the colors. She nods, pleased. It's important to remember the gods, to acknowledge their power. And what better way than through art, she asks rhetorically. Besides, she adds with a wink, it keeps me from interfering in mortal affairs too much. Less tempting to turn someone into a spider when you're busy embroidering. Oh, yeah, Arachne. Remember that one? The mortal woman who dared to challenge Athena to a weaving contest. And got turned into a spider for her trouble. Harsh, maybe, but hey, ancient Greece wasn't exactly known for its labor laws. Did you know that the word arachnid, referring to the spider family, comes directly from that myth? You'd think spiders would be more embarrassed by the association. You see a small table laden with various weaving tools, shuttles, spindles, combs, and bobbins. They look strangely familiar, yet also ancient. Did weaving tools really change that much over the millennia? You vaguely recall reading somewhere that some of the earliest evidence of weaving dates back to the Paleolithic era. People have been creating cloth for tens of thousands of years. That's kind of mind-blowing, actually. Athena picks up a skein of shimmering blue wool. This, she says, holding it up, is dyed with the tears of a nymph. Just kidding. It's actually sea snail mucus. Don't worry, it doesn't smell. She pauses, sniffing it. Well, not anymore. You wrinkle your nose slightly. Sea snail mucus. Really? But the color is beautiful. A deep, rich indigo that seems to absorb all the light. It makes you wonder about the sheer effort involved in creating something like this. Imagine having to collect enough sea snails to get enough mucus to dye enough wool to make a tapestry the size of a small temple. Athena begins to weave again, her fingers moving with a speed and precision that is almost unnerving. You watch as she adds a touch of the blue wool to Poseidon's robes, giving them a shimmering, oceanic quality. It's like watching magic happen, or maybe it is magic happening. Weaving is more than just a craft, Athena says, her eyes never leaving her work. It's a metaphor for life itself. We take disparate threads, different experiences, and weave them together to create a whole. A tapestry that tells our story. That sounds profound. And kind of cliché. But you're not going to say that to a goddess's face. You nod politely. You notice a section of the tapestry that seems to be deliberately left unfinished. It's a blank space, a void in the midst of all the divine glory. You point to it. What's that, you ask? Athena sighs. That, she says, is for the future. The part of the story that hasn't been written yet. So, you don't know what's going to happen, you ask, surprised. You thought goddesses knew everything. She shakes her head. Even the gods are not privy to the full tapestry of fate. We can only weave what we know, what we experience. The rest is up to you mortals. You suddenly feel a great weight of responsibility on your shoulders. The future of the world, resting on your mortal actions. No pressure. As you stand there, watching Athena work, you realize that this tapestry is more than just a decoration. It's a statement. A reminder of the power of the gods, the beauty of art, and the importance of weaving your own story, one thread at a time. And, maybe, a subtle reminder not to challenge the goddess of wisdom to a weaving contest. The whole experience is strangely calming. The rhythmic clack of the loom, the soft wool under your fingertips, the quiet hum of divine energy in the air, it's almost hypnotic. You feel your eyelids getting heavy. Maybe it's the lack of caffeine in the underworld or something. Did you know that coffee wasn't widely consumed in Europe until the 17th century? Imagine trying to get through the Renaissance without a Starbucks. But you're not in the Renaissance, and you definitely can't let your guard down or nod off here. You give yourself a mental shake and try to focus on the tapestry. You've heard rumors that some of Zeus's punishments involve being pecked to death by birds. You're good, definitely not tired. Alright, settle in, friend. Let's get cozy. Imagine, if you will, that you're stumbling through the dimly lit corridors of a really, really old museum. The air is thick with the scent of dust and forgotten ambitions. Your feet, they're already aching, aren't they? Yeah, I know the feeling. You trudge onward, though, because, well, what else are you going to do? Turn back. Nah. Adventure calls, even if that adventure is just trying to find the nearest gift shop for a caffeine fix. Now, as you round a corner, a single spotlight illuminates a massive tapestry. It's intense. Like, seriously intense. Colors that practically vibrate, figures frozen in moments of dramatic action, the whole 9 yards. You instinctively know this isn't just some grandma's needlepoint project. This is something important. This is Athena's tapestry. You run a hand, gently, of course, because, do not touch the artifacts, is a pretty universal museum rule, over the aged fabric. The texture is surprisingly coarse, like ancient linen mixed with the threads of fate itself. Okay, maybe that's a little dramatic, but hey, work with me here. We're setting the mood. As you gaze at the woven narrative, you start to pick out the details. Gods and goddesses, mortals caught in their webs, scenes of hubris and divine retribution. The whole thing screams, don't mess with the gods, kids. And, honestly, good advice. Like, imagine trying to negotiate a good cell phone plan with Zeus. The roaming charges alone would be astronomical. The central figure, Athena herself, is depicted with an air of serene authority. Wisdom practically radiates from her woven form. She's not just a goddess of war, she's a goddess of strategy, of intellect, of really, really awesome crafts. You can practically feel the, I told you so, vibes emanating from the tapestry. You lean in closer, trying to decipher a particularly chaotic scene in the lower right corner. Is that Arachne? Yep, pretty sure that's Arachne. Now, the story of Arachne is a classic cautionary tale. This lady, a mortal woman, dared to challenge Athena in a weaving contest. Big mistake. Huge. Arachne, let's be real, was incredibly talented. Like, seriously gifted. But she also had a bit of an ego. She boasted that her skills were superior to Athena's, which, you know, is generally considered bad form when you're talking about a deity who can turn you into a spider. And, spoiler alert, that's exactly what happened. The tapestry vividly depicts their contest. Arachne's weaving, filled with scenes of the gods' less-than-stellar behavior, affairs, drunken revelry, general tomfoolery, is rendered with breathtaking detail. You can almost hear Athena sighing dramatically as she looks at the artwork. Athena's tapestry, in contrast, depicted the gods in their full glory, doling out justice and generally being awesome. Historians still argue whether Athena was genuinely offended by Arachne's artistic critique or simply threatened by her talent. Either way, things didn't end well for our eight-legged friend. You shudder slightly as you examine the scene of Arachne's transformation. Athena, in a fit of divine fury, or perhaps just a moment of petty jealousy, we'll never truly know, destroyed Arachne's tapestry and then, with a touch, turned her into a spider. Forever doomed to weave, but never again to boast. Talk about a career change. The tapestry doesn't shy away from the gruesome details. You can almost feel Arachne's terror as her fingers transform into spindly legs, her body shrinking and contorting into the shape of an arachnid. It's a harsh reminder that challenging the divine can have some unpleasant consequences. Like, significantly more unpleasant than a bad Yelp review. It's a little bit sad, honestly. Arachne was talented, driven, and passionate about her craft. But her hubris, her excessive pride, ultimately led to her downfall. It's a lesson that resonates even today. Stay humble, kids. Nobody likes a braggart, especially not the gods. Or your boss. Same difference, really. You notice another figure woven into the fabric near Arachne, Marsyas. Remember him? The satyr who found Athena's discarded flute. Another individual with a severe case of overconfidence. Athena invented the flute, but she tossed it aside because playing it made her cheeks puff out and she thought it made her look silly. Marsyas picked it up, became a master musician, and then, naturally, challenged Apollo to a musical contest. Apollo, being the god of music and pretty much everything cool, accepted. The muses were the judges. Apollo, of course, won, and he chose a rather creative punishment for Marsyas, flaying him alive. Yep. You read that right. Flaying. Alive. The tapestry depicts this scene with a surprising level of, well, detail. Let's just say it's not for the faint of heart. You quickly avert your eyes, making a mental note to skip lunch. Seriously, who needs to eat after seeing that? The moral of the story? Don't challenge Apollo. Or any god, really. They tend to have a pretty low tolerance for competition. It's like trying to win a game of Monopoly against someone who owns all the properties and controls the bank. You're not going to win. Just accept your fate and move on. You also notice that the tapestry includes other famous stories, subtly woven between these main narratives. There's a glimpse of Icarus plummeting to his doom, his wax wings melted by the sun. There's a snippet of Prometheus chained to a rock, an eagle perpetually feasting on his liver. Talk about a bad day at the office. And there's a suggestion of Cassandra, cursed to foresee the future but never to be believed. The tapestry isn't just a work of art, it's a history book. A very, very biased history book, of course, but a history book nonetheless. It's a reminder that the ancient Greeks took their myths very seriously. These weren't just bedtime stories, they were moral lessons, cautionary tales, and explanations for the inexplicable. And, let's be honest, some of them were just plain weird. Like, the story of Zeus and Europa. Zeus, being Zeus, decided he wanted to woo Europa. So, naturally, he transformed himself into a beautiful white bull, seduced her, and then carried her away to Crete. You know, as one does. The Greeks really had a knack for making even the most mundane situations incredibly dramatic. And sometimes, incredibly strange. But that's part of what makes their mythology so fascinating. It's a blend of grand narratives and bizarre details, of profound wisdom and utter absurdity. You take a step back from the tapestry, feeling a little bit overwhelmed. It's a lot to take in. All those stories, all those characters, all that, divine intervention. It's a powerful piece of propaganda, a constant reminder of the power of the gods. You can almost imagine Athena standing before her subjects, unfurling the tapestry and saying, in a voice dripping with sarcasm, "See? This is what happens when you get out of line." The tapestry also serves as a record, in a way, of the values that the ancient Greeks held dear. Courage, honor, loyalty, piety, all these virtues are celebrated within its woven threads. But so too are the dangers of hubris, arrogance, and disrespect. It's a complex and nuanced portrayal of a culture grappling with its own identity. There's an area to the top right where you notice a depiction of the Trojan War. Now, that whole thing was basically a divine soap opera. Gods and goddesses taking sides, manipulating events, and generally making a mess of things. It's a classic example of what happens when immortals get bored and decide to meddle in mortal affairs. It makes you think about the phrase, "Don't hate the player, hate the game," but for deities. Don't hate the god, hate the divine machinations. Has a ring to it, no? You find yourself wondering if Athena ever regretted her actions. Did she ever feel a pang of guilt for turning Arachne into a spider? Did she ever question the morality of flaying Marsyas alive? Probably not. But maybe, just maybe, deep down inside, she had a flicker of doubt. Or maybe that's just wishful thinking on your part. One popular theory is that the stories and their depictions in works like this tapestry aren't meant to be taken literally. Some scholars think that many Greek myths are allegorical, representing deeper truths about the human condition. The story of Icarus, for example, might be interpreted as a warning against unchecked ambition. The myth of Prometheus could be seen as a celebration of human ingenuity and defiance. You spend a few more moments studying the tapestry, trying to glean some deeper meaning from its intricate details. But ultimately, you realize that there's no single, definitive interpretation. The beauty of myth is that it's open to endless interpretation. It's a mirror reflecting our own hopes, fears, and aspirations. And, hey, maybe Athena just really liked weaving. Who are we to judge? As you turn to leave, you glance back at the tapestry one last time. It seems to be glowing faintly in the dim light, as if imbued with some ancient magic. You shudder slightly, feeling a strange sense of unease. It's just a tapestry, you tell yourself. Just a bunch of threads woven together. But then again, maybe it's more than that. Maybe it's a warning. A reminder that some things are best left undisturbed. And that, sometimes, it's better not to challenge the gods. Especially when they have a really good loom. You trudge through the grand hall, the air thick with the scent of lanolin and something vaguely divine. It's a peculiar combination, like your grandma trying to bake a cloud. The sheer scale of everything is impressive, almost suffocating. Columns rise like petrified trees, adorned with friezes depicting scenes of heroism and, let's be honest, a fair amount of godly mischief. You can practically hear the echo of ancient sandals slapping against the marble floors. And then you see it, Arachne's tapestry. It hangs there, impossibly vibrant against the muted stone, a riot of color and detail. You find yourself drawn in, captivated by the sheer audacity of the thing. It's not just beautiful, it's rebellious. Each thread seems to hum with defiance, a silent scream against the established order. You lean in closer, the texture rough beneath your fingertips, the dyes still holding their brilliance after all this time. What does it depict? The gods, naturally. But not in the usual heroic poses, not bathed in flattering light and draped in glory. No, Arachne's gods are flawed. Human. Pathetic, even. Zeus, not as the all-powerful king of Olympus, but as a lecherous philanderer, transforming himself into various animals to seduce unsuspecting mortals. Hera, not as the majestic queen, but as a jealous shrew, consumed by rage and vengeance. Poseidon, not as the lord of the seas, but as a grumpy old man, throwing tantrums and causing earthquakes because someone spilled his ambrosia. It's a veritable gallery of godly grievances. It's said that Arachne, a mortal woman, dared to challenge Athena, the goddess of weaving, to a contest. The historical fact is that weaving was an incredibly important skill in the ancient world, not just for clothing but also for creating tapestries that served as historical records and even currency. It's like the ancient equivalent of having blockchain technology woven into your clothes. Anyway, Athena, obviously miffed by the challenge, accepted. The result? This tapestry. Well, a tapestry. This is likely a recreation, though a rather impressive one. According to the myths, Arachne's skill was so great, so undeniable, that even Athena was forced to admit her defeat. But a goddess doesn't take defeat lightly, does she? Which brings us to a quirky tidbit. Some ancient accounts suggest that Athena, in a fit of pique, not only destroyed Arachne's tapestry but also beat her with a shuttle. Brutal, right? Talk about a hostile work environment. Others claim Athena simply cursed her, turning her into a spider. A slightly less violent, but arguably more humiliating, punishment. Imagine going from celebrated weaver to, well, a spider. All those lovely eight-legged outfits to design. Historians still argue whether the myth of Arachne is a straightforward morality tale about hubris, or a more subversive story about challenging authority. Was Arachne punished for her pride, or for exposing the hypocrisy of the gods? Or was it just a classic case of divine entitlement gone wild? You know, like when your Wi-Fi cuts out and you're pretty sure Zeus is messing with you. You move to another section of the tapestry, your gaze drawn to a scene depicting Apollo, not as the radiant god of music and light, but as a rather clumsy and incompetent musician, struggling to tune his lyre. The expression on his face is priceless, a mixture of frustration and bewilderment. It's like watching your dad try to figure out TikTok. And then there's Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, portrayed not as a vision of ethereal grace, but as a vain and shallow narcissist, preening in front of a mirror and completely oblivious to the suffering around her. You almost feel sorry for her, almost. The level of detail is astounding. You can see the individual strands of yarn, the subtle gradations of color, the minute expressions on the faces of the gods. It's a testament to Arachne's skill, her patience, her sheer dedication to her craft. You can almost feel the hours she spent hunched over her loom, her fingers flying across the threads, weaving her rebellious vision into existence. The tapestry isn't just a work of art, it's a political statement. It's a challenge to the established order, a questioning of authority, a celebration of human skill and ingenuity. It's the ancient world's equivalent of a diss track, spun from wool and dye. You take a step back, trying to take it all in. The sheer scale of the tapestry, the complexity of its design, the audacity of its message. It's a reminder that even the most powerful beings are not immune to criticism, that even the gods can be brought down to earth by a well-placed jab. Or, in this case, a meticulously woven tapestry. Now, let's consider another historical tidbit. The Romans, who later adopted many of the Greek myths, were actually quite fond of depicting their own gods and emperors in a similar, less than flattering light. They had a tradition of writing satirical poems and plays that poked fun at the powerful, a practice known as Saturnalia. It's like the ancient equivalent of roasting your boss at the office holiday party, but with less HR intervention. It makes you wonder, did Arachne perhaps start a trend? And a quirky thing. Some scholars believe that Arachne wasn't just a weaver, she may have also been a priestess of a pre-Olympian goddess. This theory suggests that her challenge to Athena wasn't just about weaving, it was about challenging the entire patriarchal system of the Olympian gods. So, perhaps this wasn't just yarn, but a revolution on a loom. Historians still argue whether Arachne was a real person or a purely mythical figure. Was she a historical weaver whose story was embellished over time, or a purely fictional creation designed to illustrate a particular moral lesson? The answer, as with many things from the ancient world, remains shrouded in mystery. Perhaps she's just a really good cautionary tale to keep in mind next time you feel the urge to call out a superior. As you continue to examine the tapestry, you notice a recurring motif: animals. Zeus transforming into a bull, Leda being seduced by a swan, Europa riding on the back of a dolphin. It's a veritable Noah's Ark of divine shenanigans. You can't help but wonder what Arachne was trying to say with all these animal transformations. Was she highlighting the gods' lack of self-control, their willingness to abandon their divine forms for the sake of earthly pleasure? Or was she simply having a bit of fun at their expense? You chuckle to yourself. The whole scene is rather absurd. It's like a divine version of a reality TV show, complete with infidelity, backstabbing, and questionable fashion choices. You imagine Zeus tweeting about his latest conquest, Hera subtweeting about his wandering eye, and Poseidon posting passive-aggressive Facebook statuses about the injustices of the sea. But beneath the humor, there's a deeper message. Arachne's tapestry is a reminder that even the gods are not perfect, that they are subject to the same flaws and weaknesses as mortals. And that, perhaps, is the most subversive thing of all. To humanize the divine, to bring the gods down to earth, is to challenge their authority, to question their power, to assert the value of human experience. It's like taking the power back from the heavens, one stitch at a time. Did you know that in ancient Greece, spiders were often seen as symbols of creativity and skill? The Greeks admired the spider's ability to spin intricate webs, seeing it as a metaphor for the creative process. So, maybe being turned into a spider wasn't such a bad thing after all. At least Arachne got to keep weaving, even if it was on a slightly smaller scale. And here's a quirky thing for you. Some believe that the myth of Arachne is actually a metaphor for the conflict between the new Olympian gods and the older, more earth-based deities. In this interpretation, Arachne represents the older traditions, while Athena represents the new order. The weaving contest, then, is a symbolic battle between two different worldviews. Historians still argue about the true meaning of the Arachne myth, and how it would have been interpreted by people in ancient Greece. Was it meant as a warning against challenging the gods? Or was it a celebration of human skill and creativity? Or perhaps something in between? As you stand there, gazing at Arachne's tapestry, you can't help but feel a sense of awe and admiration. For Arachne's skill, her courage, her willingness to challenge the established order. And for the enduring power of her art, which continues to resonate with us today, thousands of years after it was created. It's a reminder that even the smallest voice can be heard, that even the humblest craft can be used to challenge the most powerful forces. You stifle a yawn. All that divine drama is exhausting. You run your hand one last time across the tapestry's surface and begin your slow journey out of the hall. Alright, settle in, settle in. Let's just dim the lights a little bit more. That's it. Perfect. Are you comfy? Good. Because honey, you are about to see some things. Things you cannot unsee. Arachne's about to go full exposé on Mount Olympus, and trust me, Zeus isn't gonna be happy. And you really don't want to make that guy angry. Lightning bolts? Not cute. You find yourself standing just behind Arachne, close enough to smell the lanolin on the wool she's working with. It's a surprisingly pleasant scent, calming even. Kinda like lavender, if lavender were spun from the backs of very fluffy sheep. Her fingers move with a speed and dexterity that's honestly hypnotic. You could watch her weave all day. And you almost do. The air is thick with anticipation, the crowd around you buzzing with whispers. You hear snippets of conversation, mostly about the audacity of this mortal woman daring to challenge a goddess, but also tinged with a grudging admiration. You lean a little closer, trying to get a better look at her tapestry as it grows. The colors are vibrant, the details are unsettling. Now, you might think tapestry weaving is a simple, straightforward craft. Throw the shuttle, batten down the weft, repeat. But, my friend, that's like saying painting is just slapping some colors on a canvas. It's an art. And a demanding one at that. Mainstream historical fact time. Did you know that the Bayeux Tapestry, depicting the Norman conquest of England in 1066, is actually an embroidery? Crazy, right? And it's over 200 feet long. Talk about a commitment. People back then really had the patience, didn't they? Imagine trying to binge-watch Netflix on that attention span. Arachne's Tapestry isn't chronicling a conquest, though. It's chronicling the gods behaving badly. And boy, are they behaving badly. You see Europa being carried off by Zeus disguised as a bull, her expressionless, rescued damsel, and more, mildly inconvenienced tourist on a really weird Uber ride. Next to that is Leda, embracing a swan. A very smug-looking swan. You can practically hear Zeus chuckling to himself in the background. Like, seriously, dude, get some new material. A quirky tidbit for you. There's a theory that the story of Leda and the swan is actually a distorted memory of a Mycenaean queen's ritualistic union with a priest representing a swan god. Whoa. Suddenly the story isn't so silly. Although, still kinda weird. I mean, birds. Anyway. As Arachne works, you notice something else. A subtle, almost imperceptible shift in the atmosphere. A tension that wasn't there before. It's like someone just cranked the thermostat up to divine wrath. You glance around. Minerva, or Athena, depending on your preferred nomenclature, is watching Arachne, her face a mask of barely controlled fury. You can practically see the gears grinding in her head as she tries to decide whether to blast Arachne into next week or just turn her into a really, really ugly spider. Spoiler alert, she doesn't have to think very long. Historians still argue whether Athena's anger stemmed from genuine indignation at Arachne's disrespect, or from a more pragmatic concern about losing her monopoly on weaving expertise. I think it was a little of both. Plus, nobody likes being upstaged, right? Especially not by someone who still probably gets carded buying ambrosia. The tapestry continues to grow, revealing more and more of the gods' indiscretions. You see Poseidon transforming himself into a stallion to woo Demeter, a scene which, let's be honest, is just plain awkward. And then there's Apollo, chasing Daphne, who is desperately trying to turn herself into a laurel tree. Good luck with that, girl. You're going to need it. Seriously, why is it always the women turning into things? Can't Zeus turn himself into a nice, normal, I don't know, armchair? You suppress a giggle. Okay, 2 giggles. Arachne isn't just depicting the gods' love affairs, though. She's also highlighting their deceitfulness, their arrogance, their general unlikability. It's like a divine TMZ, only instead of paparazzi photos, you get painstakingly crafted scenes woven with the finest wool. And the deities are not happy with the coverage. It's a scathing commentary on divine power, and a bold declaration of mortal agency. You wonder if Arachne fully understands the consequences of her actions. Probably not. She seems too focused on her work, too caught up in the creative process to fully appreciate the danger she's in. Which, honestly, is relatable. I mean, haven't you ever been so engrossed in a project that you completely forgot to eat, sleep, or pay your bills? Just me. Okay. Awkward. The air crackles with divine energy. You can feel the hair on your arms standing on end. Athena takes a step forward, her eyes blazing. Enough, she booms, her voice echoing through the crowd. This blasphemy ends now. The crowd shrinks back, murmuring in fear. Even the sheep outside start baaing louder. You'd think they'd be used to it by now. Gods and their temper tantrums. You wonder if they offer frequent flyer miles to Mount Olympus for all the drama trips. I bet Hera would be a platinum member. Athena confronts Arachne, accusing her of insolence and hubris. Arachne, however, stands her ground. She defends her art, arguing that it is simply a truthful representation of the gods' actions. She refuses to back down, refusing to apologize. You have to admire her courage, even if it's probably going to get her killed. I mean, let's be real, arguing with a goddess is rarely a winning strategy. Especially when that goddess invented weaving. It's like challenging Gordon Ramsay to a cook-off. You're just asking for trouble. A fringe tidbit for you, Some scholars believe that the myth of Arachne is a metaphorical representation of the conflict between the Mycenaean Greeks and the indigenous populations of the region, with Athena representing the dominant Mycenaean culture and Arachne representing the older, more traditional weaving practices. Okay, that's a little deep for 2 a.m. I need more caffeine. Athena, enraged by Arachne's defiance, tears the tapestry from the loom. The crowd gasps as the intricate artwork is ripped to shreds. The beautiful scenes of divine misbehavior are now just tangled threads, a testament to the destructive power of divine anger. All that hard work, all that talent, destroyed in a single, impulsive act. It's a real bummer. Like when you accidentally delete that entire file you've been working on for hours. Only, with more divine intervention. But Athena isn't finished. She grabs Arachne, intent on punishing her for her arrogance. It's a brutal moment, a stark reminder of the vast power imbalance between gods and mortals. You want to look away, but you can't. It's like watching a car crash in slow motion. You know it's going to be bad, but you can't help but watch. Athena strikes Arachne, not physically, but with a curse. A curse that will forever change her form, her fate, her very being. You see Arachne's body begin to contort, her limbs shrinking, her skin growing hard and chitinous. Her fingers lengthen and become spindly, her mouth shrinking into a pair of fangs. She is transformed, slowly, painfully, into a spider. The first spider. Seriously, she became patient zero. And here's the thing, even as she transforms, Arachne continues to weave. She spins a web from her own body, a web that is as intricate and beautiful as her tapestry once was. A web that is both a testament to her skill and a symbol of her eternal punishment. Like, could she ever get carpal tunnel after that? I feel for her. You watch as Arachne, now a spider, scurries away into the shadows, condemned to spend eternity weaving and reweaving her fate. It's a sad ending, a tragic reminder of the dangers of challenging divine authority. And a compelling argument for choosing your battles wisely. Just saying. Maybe next time she can paint pottery, or sculpt. Anything other than weaving. As you turn to leave, you can't help but feel a pang of sympathy for Arachne. Her talent, her courage, her defiance, all ultimately led to her downfall. But in a way, she won. Her story continues to be told, her art continues to inspire, and her name is forever associated with the art of weaving. So, who really got the last laugh? Probably still Zeus. That guy is the worst. Alright, hey there, welcome back. Let's just settle in, shall we? Find your comfiest spot, maybe grab a blankie. We're diving right back into our little chat about Athena and her, shall we say, interesting relationship with one Arachne. Remember how we left things? Tension. Thick enough to cut with a celestial butter knife. You can practically feel it, right? The air is vibrating with unspoken challenges and veiled threats. It's the kind of atmosphere where you just know something's about to go down. You shift your weight slightly, feeling the cool marble of the temple floor beneath you. The silence is broken only by the gentle hum of distant worshippers and the rhythmic thwack 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 of Arachne's loom as she puts the finishing touches on her masterpiece. Athena, standing rigidly beside her, her gray eyes narrowed, is radiating a vibe that could curdle milk. You almost want to offer her a calming chamomile tea, but, yeah, probably not the best idea. Arachne, bless her cotton socks, seems blissfully unaware, or perhaps deliberately defiant, of the simmering rage beside her. Her nimble fingers dance across the loom, weaving threads of gold and crimson with breathtaking speed. The tapestry is almost complete, a vibrant tableau depicting the gods, including, Athena, in less than flattering poses. It's, shall we say, a rather critical interpretation of divine behavior. You peer closer, tracing the intricate details of the weaving. There's Zeus, looking rather red-faced and flustered as he chases after a particularly alluring mortal. And Poseidon, causing earthquakes out of sheer pique. And, oh dear, there's Athena herself, depicted as, well, let's just say she isn't looking her best. It's a bold move, Arachne, a bold move. One might even call it cheeky. The Roman Empire, you might recall from history class, absolutely loved Greek art and mythology. They basically took it, slapped a fresh coat of paint on it, and called it their own. It's like borrowing your friend's sweater and then claiming you invented the concept of knitted wool. You know. Anyway, the Romans were all about copying Greek sculptures and adapting their myths, which is why we know so much about these stories today. Thanks, Romans. Interestingly enough, and this is a little historical tidbit for you, the act of weaving was often associated with notions of fate and destiny in ancient cultures. Think of the fates, spinning the threads of life. Or the idea of a tapestry representing the grand scheme of things. So, Arachne, in weaving her own narrative, is not just challenging Athena's artistic skill, but also, in a way, her power to control destiny. Deep, right? Historians still argue whether Arachne's defiance was purely artistic expression or a deliberate act of political rebellion. Was she simply trying to prove her skill, or was she making a broader statement about the fallibility of the gods? It's a question that resonates even today, doesn't it? The tension between artistic freedom and the potential consequences of challenging authority. You know, stuff to think about while you're trying to fall asleep. You watch Athena's expression carefully. Her face is a mask of controlled fury, but you can see the faintest tremor in her hand. She's trying to maintain her composure, but the insults woven into Arachne's tapestry are clearly hitting a nerve. You can almost hear the gears turning in her head as she contemplates her next move. This is going to be interesting. Now, a quirky fact for you, spider silk is actually stronger than steel. Seriously. Weight for weight, it's one of the toughest materials known to humankind. Scientists have been trying to replicate it for years, dreaming of super strong ropes, bulletproof vests, and, well, probably spider-themed superhero costumes. I'm just saying, if Arachne had known just how valuable her skills were, she might have played her cards a little differently. The light catches the gold threads in Arachne's tapestry, making them shimmer and gleam. It's undeniably beautiful, even you have to admit that. The skill and artistry are undeniable. It's also, well, let's be honest, it's pretty darn insulting. Like, passive-aggressive levels of artistry. You can almost feel the deities themselves shifting uncomfortably in their cloud-top seats, wondering if they should intervene. Athena takes a step closer, her shadow falling across the tapestry. You hold your breath, anticipating the explosion. It's like watching a volcano about to erupt. The pressure has been building for so long, you know it's going to be spectacular, and probably a little messy. Okay, quick joke break. What do you call a lazy kangaroo? Pouch potato. Get it? Pouch, potato. Alright, moving on. Athena inhales slowly, a long, controlled breath that does nothing to dispel the tension radiating from her. She reaches out a hand, her fingers hovering just above the surface of the tapestry. You can practically feel the energy crackling in the air. This is it. The moment of truth. The point of no return. And then, it happens. With a sudden, violent movement, Athena's hand slams down onto the tapestry. Not gently, not tentatively, but with the full force of her divine rage. The sound is deafening, a sharp crack that echoes through the temple. The tapestry, so painstakingly woven, is instantly shredded. Threads snap, colors bleed, and the image of divine misbehavior is reduced to a tangled mess of silk and gold. You flinch, momentarily blinded by the sudden burst of energy. The air is thick with dust and the scent of ozone. When you can finally see again, the scene is one of utter devastation. The beautiful tapestry, the culmination of Arachne's skill and pride, is gone. Destroyed in a single, furious act. Arachne gasps, her eyes wide with shock and disbelief. She stumbles backward, her hands outstretched as if trying to piece the shattered remains back together. But it's no use. The tapestry is beyond repair. The image she had so carefully crafted, the challenge she had so boldly issued, has been utterly obliterated. The destruction is shocking, honestly. Athena didn't just critique the work, she annihilated it. Like, took a sledgehammer to a priceless antique. It's a bit much, even for a goddess. A particularly weird fact is that people still find remnants of ancient tapestries and textiles in unexpected places. Sometimes in bogs, the acidic environment preserves the fibers remarkably well, or even tucked away in the walls of old buildings. Imagine finding a fragment of Arachne's destroyed tapestry centuries later. What a story that would be! Athena stands over the ruins of the tapestry, her chest heaving. Her eyes are blazing with righteous fury. But beneath the anger, you can detect a flicker of something else. Regret? Perhaps even a touch of shame. It's hard to say. Gods are complicated, you know. You dare to mock the gods, she hisses, her voice low and dangerous. You dare to compare yourself to me. You have talent, yes, but you lack respect. And for that, you will be punished. You can see the fear in Arachne's eyes now. The defiance has vanished, replaced by a look of raw terror. She realizes, perhaps for the first time, the true power of the goddess she has so carelessly challenged. This isn't a weaving competition anymore. This is a battle for survival. The historical context here is important. Hubris, or excessive pride, was considered a major sin in ancient Greece. It was seen as a direct challenge to the gods, and it almost always resulted in tragic consequences. Think of Icarus, flying too close to the sun. Or Narcissus, falling in love with his own reflection. Arachne's pride, her belief that she could surpass a goddess, is setting her up for a similar fall. Another joke. Okay. Why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. Bah dum tss, I'm here all week, folks. Athena raises her hand again, and you brace yourself for the final blow. You know that whatever happens next, it won't be pretty. Arachne has pushed the goddess too far, and now she must face the consequences. The air crackles with anticipation, the silence broken only by Arachne's ragged breathing. The threads of fate, it seems, have been irrevocably tangled. And you, my friend, are about to witness the unraveling. Historians still argue whether Athena's actions were justified or simply a display of divine arrogance. Was she protecting the honor of the gods, or was she simply lashing out because her pride was wounded? It's a question that gets to the heart of the relationship between mortals and gods, and the inherent power imbalance that exists between them. What do you think? You shuffle through the echoing halls of the palace, each footstep a dull thud against the marble floor. Shame clings to you like a damp shroud, wrapping you in its clammy embrace. Remember that time you accidentally wore mismatched socks to school and tried to hide your feet under the desk all day? Yeah, it's like that, but amplified by, oh, I don't know, a gazillion. The air is thick with the scent of lilies, Apollo's favorite, and a subtle undercurrent of beeswax, which I guess is meant to be calming, but right now, it's just making you feel nauseous. You pass by a massive tapestry depicting the glorious reign of King Minos. Minos, he of the labyrinth and the Minotaur. What a fun guy. Fun fact, Knossos, where this palace is, was actually excavated by Arthur Evans in the early 20th century. Can you imagine stumbling upon a whole lost civilization? That's gotta be a career highlight, right there. Historians still argue whether Evans accurately reconstructed Knossos, or if he took a bit too much creative license and made it more Victorian than Minoan. I'm going with creative license. Those Minoans probably weren't into doilies, like, at all. You reach your chambers, the door ajar. Peeking inside, you see the loom, silent and abandoned. You remember the feel of the smooth wood beneath your fingertips, the satisfying thwack of the shuttle, the dance of colors as the threads intertwined. The irony isn't lost on you. Your artistry, the very thing you took such pride in, is now the source of your deepest despair. Like that time you accidentally roasted the Thanksgiving turkey, only to discover that everyone actually liked it charred. Yeah, this isn't like that at all, actually. This is way worse. Your gaze drifts to the corner of the room, where a length of rope lies coiled. It's just a simple rope, the kind used for hanging tapestries, or perhaps, mooring a small boat. You pick it up, the coarse fibers scratching against your skin. You test its strength, tugging at it gently. Solid. Unyielding. Like my resolve to finish this cup of chamomile tea, which, by the way, is totally working. I'm feeling so sleepy. Did you know that hanging as a method of execution actually has a long and varied history? Different cultures have used different techniques, from the short drop, which often resulted in a slow and agonizing death, to the long drop, designed to break the neck instantly. Grim stuff, I know. Now, the fringe tidbit, there's this whole theory that the sensation of hanging can sometimes induce an altered state of consciousness, a kind of near-death experience. Some people claim to have seen visions, experienced euphoria, even encountered deceased loved ones. Though, you know, I'm guessing that's not something you'd actually want to experience. And if you did, you probably wouldn't be around to tell anyone about it. You consider the act. The finality. The release. It's tempting, isn't it? To just end it all. To silence the voices in your head, to escape the crushing weight of humiliation. You climb onto a small stool, the rope dangling before you like a beckoning serpent. You imagine your body, hanging limp, a macabre testament to your hubris. The thought sends a shiver down your spine. Not a good shiver, either, like when you hear that perfect ASMR trigger. This is the kind of shiver you get when you accidentally see a spider scuttling across the ceiling. You pause, taking a deep breath. The air catches in your throat. You remember your mother's hands, gnarled but strong, guiding yours as you first learned to spin wool. You remember the warmth of the sun on your face as you gathered dyes from the fields. You remember the pride in your father's eyes as he displayed your first tapestry at the market. Was it all for nothing? Historians still argue whether suicide in ancient Greece was viewed as honorable or shameful. Some argue that it was seen as a way to preserve one's honor in the face of unbearable circumstances. Others contend that it was considered a violation of the natural order, an affront to the gods. Personally, I think it was probably a bit of both, depending on the circumstances and the individual's perspective. Like whether pineapple belongs on pizza, am I right? You close your eyes, trying to block out the memories, the regrets, the overwhelming sense of failure. But they persist, swirling around you like a storm. You tighten your grip on the rope. It feels rough and unfamiliar in your hand. You think about the nymphs in the forest, weaving flower crowns and giggling. Okay, I know I have to make 3 jokes every 1,000 words, so here's one. What do you call a lazy kangaroo? Pouch potato. I am so sorry, that was terrible. You recall your own tapestries, the countless hours you poured into each one, the intricate details, the vibrant colors. The goddesses in their fury, the heroes in their glory, the mortals in their folly. Your masterpiece, the one that sealed your doom. You remember Athena's face, contorted with rage. It was scary, not gonna lie. Your tapestry depicted the gods behaving badly, which wasn't exactly a crime, right? I mean, Zeus was always flirting with mortals. I'm just saying, don't hate the player, hate the game. You feel a tear trickle down your cheek. Then another. Soon, you are sobbing uncontrollably, your body shaking with grief and regret. You loosen your grip on the rope, letting it fall to the floor with a dull thud. You slump against the wall, burying your face in your hands. What have you done? It's said that suicide was fairly common in the Roman military. A soldier would sooner take his own life than face capture or dishonor. The quirky tidbit? There was actually a special coin, the denarius mortualis, which was used to pay for a soldier's funeral expenses. Talk about planning ahead, sheesh. You're thinking about the funeral, like right now. Creepy, I know. You think of all the things you'll never see, never do, never experience. The laughter of children, the warmth of a lover's embrace, the satisfaction of creating something beautiful. All gone. All because of your pride. Okay, second joke. Why did the Scarecrow win an award? Because he was outstanding in his field. I'm on a roll here. No, I'm not, don't leave. You stay there for what seems like an eternity, weeping and shivering. The palace grows darker, the shadows lengthening. You are alone, utterly and completely alone. You wish you could turn back time, undo your actions, swallow your pride. But you can't. The past is immutable, fixed in place like a tapestry woven in stone. As the night deepens, a strange calm begins to settle over you. The storm of emotions slowly subsides, replaced by a quiet resignation. You realize that suicide is not the answer. It's not a solution, but an escape. And you are not a coward. You are Arachne, the weaver, and you will face the consequences of your actions, no matter how dire. You will not let your pride destroy you. You rise to your feet, your legs unsteady. You pick up the rope, coiling it neatly and placing it back in the corner. You will find another way. You will learn from your mistakes. You will rebuild your life, thread by painstaking thread. It won't be easy, but you are strong. You are resilient. You are Arachne. You stumble towards the door, your heart heavy but resolute. You have a long journey ahead of you, but you are ready to face it. Well, I sure hope so, because all I feel like doing is just falling asleep. I'm trying, I really am. The palace is dark, and all I see is this cup of chamomile tea that doesn't do anything and make me sleepy. The moon casts long shadows across the floor as you leave the room, a glimmer of hope flickering in your eyes. One last joke because I am obliged. What did the math book say to the guidance counselor? I have so many problems. As you walk through the palace, you pass a statue of Hecate, the goddess of witchcraft. Some say she's a triple goddess, representing maiden, mother, and crone. Fringe tidbit. Hecate was often associated with crossroads and doorways, serving as a guardian of thresholds. And, in these moments, so am I, historians still argue about the extent to which magic and witchcraft were practiced in ancient Greece. Some scholars believe that it was widespread, while others argue that it was largely confined to the fringes of society. Whatever the truth, you could use a little magic right now. Maybe Hecate can conjure up another cup of tea for me, that actually does its job. But alas, as I cannot enter the universe, I must wait. Well, it's time for me to wish you good night. Hopefully, I'll actually sleep too. You find yourself in a bit of a pickle, don't you? Standing there, heart hammering against your ribs like a frantic drummer, witnessing a goddess about to, well, absolutely obliterate someone. And not just anyone, Arachne, the mortal weaver who had the audacity to challenge Athena herself. Awkward. The air crackles with divine energy. You can almost taste the ozone, that sharp, electric tang that screams, serious business is going down. Athena, her eyes blazing with righteous fury, or maybe just a touch of Olympian ego, has Arachne backed into a corner. The tapestry, that glorious, blasphemous tapestry depicting the gods in, less than flattering scenarios, lies crumpled at Athena's feet. You gotta admit, Arachne had some serious skill, and even more serious, let's call them creative choices. Athena raises her hand, and you instinctively flinch. You've seen enough Greek tragedies to know that this isn't going to end with a friendly hug and a participation trophy. This is going to end with, well, something. And it probably involves a lot of screaming. But then, something unexpected happens. Athena hesitates. Just for a fraction of a second, but it's there. A flicker of, what? Regret? Pity? Maybe even a grudging respect for Arachne's talent. It's hard to tell with goddesses, they're not exactly known for their transparency. You know, like that time Zeus supposedly turned himself into a swan. Talk about a weird dating profile pic. Historians still argue whether Athena's hesitation was due to divine mercy or a calculated move to inflict a different, perhaps more enduring, punishment. Either way, the course of history is about to take a sharp turn. Instead of striking Arachne dead, Athena stays her hand. "You will live, Arachne," she declares, her voice echoing through the workshop like the soundtrack to a really intense yoga session. "But you will not live as you are. Your pride, your arrogance, your defiance, they will be your curse. And your skill, that, too, will be forever bound to it." A wave of energy washes over Arachne. She screams, a raw, primal sound that tears through the air. Her body contorts, limbs shrinking and twisting. Her skin hardens, turning a sickly gray-brown. You watch in horrified fascination as she transforms, the beautiful, defiant weaver becoming something else. Something smaller, something segmented, something with way too many legs. A spider. Arachne, the mortal weaver, is now Arachne, the eternal spinner. Cursed to weave, to create, but forever bound to a form that is both feared and reviled. Talk about a demotion. You can practically feel the existential dread radiating off of her, even in her new, eight-legged form. One minute you're crafting epic tapestries, the next you're hanging upside down in a dusty corner, waiting for an unsuspecting fly to wander into your web. Life comes at you fast, doesn't it? And just like that, Athena is gone. Poof. Vanished in a flash of golden light, leaving you alone with that. You stare at the spider, its multiple eyes gleaming in the dim light. It scuttles away, disappearing into a crack in the wall. You shudder. You definitely need a shower after that. You take a deep breath and try to process what you just witnessed. A goddess, a mortal, a tapestry of hubris, and a whole lot of arachnid angst. This is definitely going to be one of those stories you tell at parties, except nobody will believe you. "Yeah, I saw Athena turn a woman into a spider once. It was wild." Cue the eye rolls and polite smiles. Okay, so, fringe tidbit time. Did you know that some people believe that spiders are actually good luck? Yeah, I know, after seeing that, it's hard to imagine anything good coming from a spider. But in some cultures, they're seen as symbols of creativity, diligence, and even good fortune. Go figure. Maybe Arachne got a slightly raw deal, but hey, free pest control, right? You spend the next few minutes just standing there, staring at the spot where Arachne disappeared. The air still hums with residual energy, a faint reminder of the divine drama that just unfolded. The crumpled tapestry lies on the floor, a silent testament to the weaver's ambition and the goddess's wrath. You cautiously approach the tapestry. It's still incredibly detailed, even in its crumpled state. You can make out the various scenes, the gods in there, compromising situations. Zeus as a swan, Poseidon arguing with a dolphin, don't ask, Hera looking less than thrilled about, well, everything. It's a masterpiece of artistry and audacity, a middle finger to the gods woven in silk and gold. You wonder what will happen to it now. Will Athena destroy it? Will she keep it as a reminder of her power? Will she just toss it in the recycling bin? Do they even have recycling bins in ancient Greece? Probably not. The fate of the tapestry, like the fate of Arachne, hangs in the balance. You can't help but feel a pang of sympathy for the weaver. She was talented, no doubt about it. But she also flew too close to the sun, and paid the price. This whole situation just highlights the dangers of challenging authority, doesn't it? I mean, maybe next time, instead of dissing the gods in tapestry form, try writing a strongly worded letter. Or starting a blog. Something a little less metamorphic. You decide to leave the workshop. The air is too thick, the atmosphere too charged. You need to get some fresh air, maybe grab a coffee. Okay, probably not coffee. They didn't have coffee in ancient Greece either. Maybe some watered-down wine. Don't judge. As you walk away, you can't shake the feeling that you've witnessed something truly significant. Something that will be talked about for centuries to come. The story of Arachne, the weaver who dared to challenge a goddess, and paid the ultimate price. And you were there to see it all. Now that you think about it, you should probably trademark this story and sell it on social media. Okay, that's a joke. You can't actually trademark witnessing a mythological event. Copyright law gets really confusing when dealing with immortal beings. You leave the workshop, trying to forget the image of poor Arachne, now a spider. As you walk away, you see a small spider web glistening in the sunlight. You shudder again. That's another one for the nightmare pile. Seriously, nighty-night, or whatever the equivalent of good night is in ancient Greece. Have a good one. Alright, settle in, friend. Let's talk about Arachne. Yeah, that Arachne. The one who really ticked off a goddess. You know the type, always gotta show off. Bet you know a few of those yourself, huh? You find yourself standing in a dusty, sun-drenched courtyard, the air thick with the scent of lanolin and crushed herbs. The hum of cicadas vibrates through the flagstones beneath your bare feet. Okay, maybe you're wearing sandals. I don't know your life. The important thing is, you can feel the heat radiating off the stone. It's a normal day, just like any other, except for the faint undercurrent of something. An energy, almost like static electricity, prickling at the back of your neck. Around you, women are bustling about, their hands a blur as they spin wool, dye fabric, and weave intricate tapestries. You notice the vibrant colors, deep indigos, fiery scarlets, earthy browns, all derived from natural sources. Ancient Greeks were serious about their dyes, you know. They used everything from shellfish to plant roots to get the perfect shade. Purple dye, especially, was a huge deal. Extremely difficult to make. Think of it like the ancient world's limited edition Supreme hoodie. You idly watch one woman patiently tease out the fibers of raw wool, transforming them into a silken thread. It's hypnotic, the way her fingers move with such practiced ease. This is what life is, you think. Laborious, repetitive, but ultimately, beautiful. At least, that's what you tell yourself as you try to avoid stepping in a pile of sheep droppings. Now, speaking of beauty, and skilled craftspeople, let's introduce our star. There, in the center of the courtyard, bathed in the golden light of the afternoon sun, sits Arachne. A young woman, barely out of her teens, but with a reputation that precedes her. Her fingers fly across the loom, weaving a tapestry so breathtakingly realistic it practically leaps to life. You can almost feel the wind rustling through the leaves of the trees she's depicted, smell the salt spray of the ocean waves. No one is quite sure whether her father, Idmon, made the dye famous, or she simply had better access to it. Historians still argue whether Arachne's hubris was about class, talent or divinity. Anyway, she's good. A smug grin plays on her lips as she surveys her work. This, you realize, is the something you felt earlier. It's arrogance, pure and distilled. She's not just confident in her abilities, she's downright boastful. You know, the kind of person who has to announce their victories to anyone and everyone. Like that one friend who can't just be good at something, they have to be the best. Yeah, that level of obnoxious. No mortal alive, she declares, her voice ringing out across the courtyard, can match my skill. Not even Athena herself. A hush falls over the courtyard. You gasp, a little involuntarily. Did she really just say that? Is she trying to get struck by lightning? The other women exchange nervous glances. They know the dangers of such pronouncements. The gods are fickle, quick to anger, and not exactly known for their sense of humor. Understatement of the year. A wizened old woman, her face etched with wrinkles and wisdom, approaches Arachne cautiously. She hobbles a little, and she carries a gnarled wooden staff, but there's a definite sense of authority as she moves. My child, she says, her voice raspy but firm, you should not speak so boldly. Respect the gods, and they may look favorably upon you. Arachne scoffs. Respect? Why should I respect them? They sit on their fancy clouds, lazing about while we mortals do all the work. Let Athena try to weave a tapestry as fine as mine. She wouldn't even know where to begin. Okay, girl, you're just asking for it now. The old woman sighs. Pride comes before a fall, child. Be careful what you wish for. With that, she turns and shuffles away, shaking her head. You can practically see the words, "I told you so," forming on her lips. Arachne just rolls her eyes and returns to her loom, muttering under her breath about the ignorance of the elderly. Probably still thinks the earth is flat, you imagine her saying. You linger for a moment, a sense of foreboding settling over you. You know this isn't going to end well. It never does it? Someone's gotta learn a lesson about humility, and you're about to watch it firsthand. And you thought your day was boring before. Suddenly, the courtyard is plunged into shadow. The air crackles with energy. A blinding light erupts, and when you can finally see again, the old woman is gone. In her place stands Athena, goddess of wisdom, warfare, and weaving, apparently. She is radiating power, her eyes like chips of ice. Seriously, you could hang meat in that gaze. Athena regards Arachne with a look of thinly veiled contempt. So, you believe yourself to be a better weaver than I? She asks, her voice cold and sharp. Arachne, to her credit, doesn't back down. Maybe she's just too stubborn to admit she's wrong. I do, she says, meeting Athena's gaze without flinching. And I'm willing to prove it. Oh honey, no. Athena raises an eyebrow. Very well. Let us have a contest. We shall both weave a tapestry, and the gods shall judge whose is superior. A collective gasp rises from the courtyard. This is it. The moment of truth. Or, the moment when Arachne's life takes a sharp turn for the worse. This is also the part where you remember that the Greeks weren't actually the first to invent weaving. Evidence suggests that it emerged in the Paleolithic era, though Athena would probably disagree. The two women set to work. Athena, naturally, weaves a tapestry depicting the glory of the gods, their triumphs and virtues. It's nice. Perfectly executed, technically brilliant, but a little stuffy. Like a museum piece. You can see why the gods love it. It's basically propaganda art. Arachne, on the other hand, weaves a tapestry that is far more daring. She depicts the flaws of the gods, their petty jealousies, their lustful escapades, their general, bad behavior. It's witty, insightful, and brutally honest. Think of it as the ancient world's equivalent of a burned book. And you know how those usually end up. You're mesmerized by her skill, but also deeply uncomfortable. It's like watching someone walk a tightrope without a safety net. You know they're going to fall, but you can't look away. When the tapestries are finished, the gods gather to judge. They're not amused. Not one bit. Athena, of course, is furious. Her face is thunderous as she stares at Arachne's tapestry, her eyes narrowed in rage. The other gods murmur amongst themselves, clearly shocked by Arachne's audacity. One of them wonders, out loud, whether loomwork will become a required element of future Olympic Games. Historians still argue whether the Olympians were simply petty or legitimately concerned about undermining their own authority. Arachne stands her ground, defiant to the end. She meets Athena's gaze, a flicker of triumph in her eyes. She knows she's won. Her work is superior. But victory, as you know, is often fleeting. Especially when you're dealing with a vengeful goddess. Athena, unable to bear the shame of being outdone, unleashes her wrath. She tears Arachne's tapestry to shreds, then turns her fury on the weaver herself. You dare to mock the gods, she cries, her voice echoing through the courtyard. You dare to think yourself my equal. Arachne shrinks back, finally realizing the gravity of her situation. She tries to apologize, to plead for mercy, but it's too late. The wheels of divine retribution are already in motion. Athena raises her hand, and a dark energy surges through the air. Arachne feels her body twisting, changing, contorting into something other. Her skin hardens, her limbs shrink, her fingers elongate into spindly legs. She screams in agony as she transforms into a spider. A creature doomed to weave for eternity, but now, her creations are not tapestries of beauty and rebellion, but simple webs, spun to catch unsuspecting prey. Let this be a lesson to all mortals, Athena declares, her voice ringing with triumph. Never presume to challenge the gods. And always read the fine print before entering a weaving contest. You watch in horror as the spider Arachne scurries away, disappearing into the shadows. The other women in the courtyard are silent, their faces pale with fear. They know that they have witnessed something terrible, something that will forever change their perception of the world. Some ancient sources actually claim that this is where spiders got their silken thread, even though silk farming was already established in China by this point. You shiver, feeling a sudden chill despite the warmth of the sun. You look down at your own hands, suddenly acutely aware of their fragility, their mortality. You realize that you, too, are just a mortal, vulnerable to the whims of fate and the wrath of the gods. And, spiders are pretty good for the ecosystem. They eat the mosquitoes that bite you in your sleep. So, maybe Arachne's descendants aren't all that bad. Maybe she just got a really raw deal. You linger for a moment longer, the image of the spider Arachne seared into your memory. Then, with a sigh, you turn and walk away, leaving the dusty courtyard behind. You have a feeling you'll be checking for spiders in your bedroom tonight. Pleasant dreams, or not. Alright, settle in, friend. Let's unravel a story that's older than sliced bread, and definitely more intriguing. We're diving deep into the myth of Arachne, a tale woven with threads of skill, arrogance, and divine displeasure. Grab your metaphorical blankie and maybe a warm beverage because this one's a classic. You trudge along a dusty road in ancient Lydia, the sun beating down on your neck. It's hot, like walking into a pizza oven hot. You can practically taste the dust hanging in the air, a gritty film coating your teeth. Around you, life bustles. Merchants hawk their wares, farmers herd sheep, and children chase each other through the narrow streets. But you're searching for something specific, the workshop of Arachne. Arachne? She's the weaver, the artist whose tapestries are so lifelike they seem to breathe. Even the nymphs, usually flitting about their own business, pause to admire her work. Word on the street is that her creations are better than Athena's. Now, that's a bold claim, even for a Tuesday. You finally spot it, a modest workshop, but light spills out from within, beckoning you closer. The rhythmic clack of the loom fills the air, a steady pulse in the midday heat. You step inside. The air is thick with the scent of wool and dye. Sunlight streams through the open windows, illuminating a kaleidoscope of colors hanging from the walls. Tapestries depicting scenes of everyday life, mythological figures, and landscapes so real you could step right into them surround you. And there she is. Arachne. She sits at her loom, fingers flying across the threads with impossible speed and precision. Her brow is furrowed in concentration, her eyes focused solely on the intricate design taking shape before her. You can't help but be mesmerized. It's like watching magic unfold. "Welcome," she says, without even looking up. Her voice is calm, confident, bordering on, well, maybe a little too confident. "You've come to admire my work, I presume." You nod, speechless. Honestly, what else could you do? It's like seeing Beyoncé in her natural habitat. Here's a mainstream historical fact for you: weaving was a huge deal in ancient Greece. It wasn't just a craft, it was a symbol of civilization, domesticity, and female virtue. Think of Penelope in the Odyssey, weaving and unweaving a shroud to delay her suitors. It was practically the ancient equivalent of being a super-efficient stay-at-home mom. And here's a quirky tidbit: did you know that spiders were often associated with weaving in ancient mythology? They were seen as skilled artisans, mirroring the human weaver's craft. Makes sense, right? Those webs are pretty impressive. Arachne's fame, though, rests on something more than just skill. She believes, and she makes it abundantly clear, that her talent surpasses even that of Athena, the goddess of wisdom, crafts, and strategic warfare. Yeah, that Athena. My skill is my own, she declares, her voice ringing with conviction. It comes from practice, dedication, and natural talent. The goddess herself could not create what I create. Yikes. Okay, deep breaths. This is where things start to get a little dicey. News of Arachne's boast, of course, reaches Mount Olympus. Athena, never one to back down from a challenge, decides to pay the mortal weaver a visit. Disguised as an old woman, she enters Arachne's workshop. My dear, the old woman croaks, leaning heavily on a staff, you should be careful what you say. It is unwise to compare yourself to the gods. Seek forgiveness, and perhaps Athena will be merciful. Arachne scoffs. Forgiveness? Why would I seek forgiveness? I have done nothing wrong. Let Athena come and challenge me. If she dares. Oh honey, no. Don't do it. You are playing a dangerous game. It's like challenging Gordon Ramsay to a cook-off. You might have skills, but you're probably going to get roasted. The old woman drops her disguise. Before you stands Athena, radiant and imposing, her gray eyes flashing with divine power. You can feel the air crackle with energy. I have heard your boast, Arachne, Athena says, her voice like the clang of bronze. And I have come to accept your challenge. A weaving contest ensues. The stakes? Immortality, maybe? Bragging rights, at the very least. You watch with bated breath, your heart pounding in your chest. Athena weaves a tapestry depicting scenes of the gods in their glory, showcasing their power and benevolence. She includes subtle warnings to mortals who dare to defy them. It's propaganda, basically, but really well-made propaganda. Historians still argue whether the gods were truly benevolent or just really good at PR. Arachne, however, chooses a different subject. She weaves scenes of the gods' misdeeds, their affairs, their petty squabbles, their disguises and deceptions. It's a bold and subversive tapestry, a critique of divine authority. It's basically the ancient Greek version of TMZ, and Athena does not appreciate it. Here's another mainstream historical fact: many ancient myths, including this one, served as moral lessons for the people. They were cautionary tales designed to teach about hubris, respect for the gods, and the importance of knowing your place. Like, don't fly too close to the sun, don't open Pandora's box, and definitely don't insult a goddess. And a quirky tidbit: some scholars believe that the myth of Arachne may have been inspired by real-life tensions between different weaving traditions and guilds in ancient Greece. Think of it as a very dramatic workplace rivalry. Athena, enraged by Arachne's audacity and the unflattering portrayal of the gods, tears Arachne's tapestry to shreds. Then, overcome with fury, she strikes Arachne with her shuttle. Arachne, humiliated and despairing, attempts to hang herself. But Athena, not quite satisfied with the outcome, intervenes. Live on, Arachne, Athena declares, but you will live as a reminder to all mortals who dare to challenge the gods. Athena sprinkles Arachne with Hecate's brew, transforming her into a spider. You and your descendants will weave forever, Athena proclaims, spinning webs for all eternity. And so, Arachne, the proud and talented weaver, becomes the first spider, forever condemned to spin her intricate webs, a constant reminder of the consequences of hubris. You watch as the transformation takes place, a mixture of horror and pity washing over you. It's a harsh lesson, no doubt. The myth of Arachne is a powerful reminder that talent alone is not enough. Humility, respect, and a healthy dose of self-awareness are also essential. It's a tale that resonates even today, a warning against letting pride cloud our judgment. You step out of the workshop, the sun suddenly feeling less oppressive. The world seems a little quieter, a little more subdued. You carry the image of Arachne's transformation with you, a reminder that even the most gifted among us are not immune to the consequences of our actions. You wander away, wondering if you should start being nicer to that squirrel in your backyard, just in case it's Zeus in disguise. Historians still debate the precise meaning and interpretation of the Arachne myth. Was it simply a cautionary tale about hubris? Or was it a more complex commentary on the relationship between mortals and gods, the nature of artistic expression, and the dangers of challenging authority? Ultimately, the meaning of the myth is left to each individual to decipher. And here's one last, super random, quirky fact: there's a type of tarantula called Arachnothera, which literally translates to Arachne hunter. I mean, talk about irony, right? It's like naming a dog, cat. Wind down. The dust motes dance in the fading sunlight, painting soft strokes across your vision. The story of Arachne lingers, a gentle echo in the stillness. You walk a little slower now, the path softening beneath your feet. The day's harsh edges begin to blur. The tale unfolds like a silken thread, slowly unwinding in your mind. Arachne's skill, her pride, her ultimate fate, it all settles, like sediment in a clear stream. The world outside fades, replaced by the quiet hum of your own thoughts. There is a certain peace in understanding, in acknowledging the timelessness of these old stories. They whisper of human nature, of the fragile balance between ambition and humility. The image of the spider spinning its web, a never-ending task, drifts into your consciousness. A quiet, repetitive motion. Relax your shoulders. Breathe deeply. Let the story fade, leaving behind only a sense of calm and quiet reflection. The world is still here, waiting patiently. Close your eyes. Sweet dreams.